question. Do you remember the time Michael Jackson? It wasn't about the ratchets, it was about the rapping. Now they got the whole game melting in the pot. They helping it to stop. Are you helping it or not? See, I remember.
Well, hello, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 10, the season finale of Popcorn and Booze, the show with a contemporary sense of humor. I'm your host, Vince Eustace, and my guest tonight is no stranger to the show. Last season, we interviewed him, and tonight, we bring him back for part 2. He's a rapper, an actor, comedian, and ladies and gentlemen, he is Laren Moore!
Yes. Hello, Jim. Hello. How are you, good sir? How are you today?
So we said last time, because we didn't get everything in. We were about to jump into some, I guess, pretty long, detailed stories.
Shit.
And it's like, all right, we should save this for part 2. We're here. Part 2, ready to go.
Yes, and I am ready to go, sir. And I love how we are kind of switching roles here like we did on part 1.
Yes.
Because we're special.
Very.
We're special.
So where we last left off with Broken Complex. You just did the video for intro where you worked with basically the entire roster, did sort of a flavor in your ear type homage in the video.
Tribute. Yeah, it was a tribute to that original video. Yes, it was. And
then you said right before we left off that you were going to get into touring with Broken Complex, and you're like, oh, that's a long story, don't want to condense it. So now we've got time. Start it off. Yeah. Tell us about touring with Broken Complex.
Yeah, the way you started off, it sounds like that viral video that went around of the little gangster white boy that's like, he's like cousin, and he sounds like a Crip, and he's like, hey, cuz, you stepped up to me last time, cuz, but I couldn't do nothing because I was with my son, or you were with your son, and you ain't got time, but cuz, I got time today, cuz. That is the stupidest fucking video, bro.
That was me. That was me in the video. So I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah.
No, that's what that reminded me of. You were like, we got time today. No, we do, man. That video shoot, just to reiterate, because I'm sure I brought this up in part 1, that was the first real professional music shoot I ever did. Like, maybe even acting wise. I think that was the first time that wasn't the first time acting wise, it wasn't, because the first real professional television-esque, movie-esque thing I ever did was when I was on, I did 2 seasons of Soul Train when I was 19, and that was on the Paramount lot. So that was the first big thing I ever did in my career. But this was musically, as far as feeling like a rap star, that was the first time, man. And I remember, we shot it on this really cool sound stage. We did the fact it was the whole tribute. Syra didn't show up. We talked about that because she just did not give a fuck. So that was the first time I actually felt like a rap star. I could officially say I felt like a rap star. The camera angles, it was a professional fucking camera. It was great. They had a fucking, which you don't really need now, even though this wasn't that long ago, but they had the fucking camera mounted on this really cool dolly to do this really cool panning effect. So when it gets to my shot with Hoppa, when we're sitting on the couch, the opener to that segment, the opener to that scene is the camera panning into the frame of me and Hoppa. It's a really cool visual. If you watch the video, it just looks so dope. And you could see that's how they shot it. It was just really cool pan in the frame. And then they do my performance shots where I'm sitting in the chair. So it was fucking awesome. That was just a great experience. So we do the video, and now it's time for the tour, which oddly enough, I don't think the video was released until after the tour or before. I can't remember. So this was all the end of 2010. So we're talking about 11 years ago, when I was a strapping young man. Now I'm an old fart. So the end of 2010 was interesting because we just shoot the video. We're getting this traction. And then Hoppa's like, hey, we're going to tour off and we had just did the Broken Complex album, the big compilation album. So we did the album, we recorded the album, we did the music video. So 2010 was a very busy year for me with Broken Complex. That was the first year of Broken Complex. That was a good year. Sadly, the last years, which we will get into, weren't, but That first year was fucking awesome. The end of 09 heading into the end of 2010 was just incredible as far as Broken Complex, because I literally felt like a rap star that entire year, and I thought this was finally going to be like a culmination to everything I've worked for up to that point musically as a rapper and a singer and a songwriter. So beginning of 2010, we do and that lasted about a few months till about summer. And then right around summertime, we do the video. And then so the end of 2010, heading into Christmas, we did a month-long tour. Great experience. That was, well, some funny things happened on that tour.
Where do you guys go on tour?
I remember the day when?
Like where did you go? Like where did
oh,
you
well, yeah, we hit a few spots. We did we did 2 legs of the tour. There was 2 legs. So the first leg of the tour, we hit and not in this order, because it's so long ago. I couldn't tell you where we went to where to, but I know where we were. We did Texas. We did 2 cities in Texas, Fort Worth and I want to say Houston. I think we did Houston. We did Houston and Fort Worth, if I recall. In the Fort Worth story, I'll get into that. That was an interesting leg of the tour. We did Arizona. So we did Flagstaff and Phoenix in Arizona. And then we did 2 cities in New Mexico. I knew we did Las Cruces. Well, Las Cruces, I think is how you pronounce it. We did Las Cruces, and I don't remember the other city. And then I think that was it for the first. We were supposed to go to Oregon. We never made it. And then the second leg of the tour, we basically toured the Bay Area. We did like Fresno. I think we did San Francisco. We kind of did like the California tour. And then we ended the tour with Vegas.
Oh, nice.
Well, we ended we did a Vegas show, and the last show we did were 2 to 3 shows in LA, actually. Funny stories about those shows. I actually brought that up when we interviewed Clean about Uncle D's behavior. Those last LA shows at the end of the tour. So the first city I remember us going to, so here's the thing, leading into that, I was nervous as fuck because I had just lost my California ID. And I think my license, I think I lost them both. So there's talks of, hey, when we go out there, when we go to these places, obviously we're going to perform, but we're going to party. We're going to fucking, party like rock stars as well. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I'm not going to be able to get into any of the fucking venues. And it just so happens, leading up to that tour, I was staying in a hotel with an ex-girlfriend of mine at the time. I can't remember why. It was whatever apartment we were in, I think was being renovated or something happened. I can't remember. But we were staying in a hotel for a few weeks, and I could not find my ID. And it just so happens the hotel we were staying at, the manager of that hotel was Laz. So at the BC meetings, me and Laz would talk about, I'll see you at the hotel, like, because he worked at the hotel. But at the BC meetings, I kept bringing up the fact that I had lost my ID. And I'm just like, fuck, how are we going to get my ID? I was like, what am I going to do? I'm not going to have enough time. We were literally leaving it was like October. So we were literally leaving like right after Halloween, I think is when we head out. So most of November, if not all of November, we were gone. So I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? And it just so happens Laz finds my ID behind one of the beds in the hotel room we were staying at. And he showed up. We had a Broken Complex foundation show, which was a monthly show that we did, a showcase that we did, where I would host the battles. We would have MC battles. I would host them. Look that up, folks, by the way. Type in Broken Complex 2010 MC battles, and you will see my excellent performance as a host. I've
not seen that. I've seen Broken Complex battles. I don't know if it was 2010, but I haven't seen you hosting, so I have to check that out.
Yeah, that's a little Easter egg for you as well, Vince. Yeah, just type in 2010 Broken Complex battles, and you should see a bunch of shit from that gap of months. But also you'll see me hosting, which was really fun, by the way. So we were doing one of those, and I'm there, and I'm partying, having a good time, drinking, and Laz is like, hey, did you forget something? And he pops up, and it's my updated fucking California ID. And I'm like, you motherfucker, thank God, like, you found it. So now I'm like, okay, I'm all set. So we leave after Halloween. And the first spot we hit is New Mexico? We go to New Mexico first. because Minus is from New Mexico, so that was his connection. Mind you, up to the point of me joining Broken Complex, Hoppa had already had some traction. He was already well known in these states. Him and Minus, like literally Minus and DJ Hoppa already were local stars in each of these states because everybody knew them. Every city we went to, I was the new guy, but they knew who the fuck Hoppa was. They knew who Minus was. So that was cool because they had already built a rapport. And same thing with Clean. Like Clean is like famous in Lancaster, practically. I think we talked about that when we interviewed him. He's pretty fucking well known. Like that's his stomping ground. So same thing with a couple of these cities we went to when he finally joined the tour. Now, mind you, the first leg of the tour, it was me, DJ Hoppa, Dizzy, our road manager, and Minus. That was it. It was just the four of us. Syra couldn't come, but then again, she wasn't even fucking interested in coming. So you know how I feel about that. Last couldn't go because they had to work. Clean, like half the fucking crew could not come. And I was like excited. I was like, fuck this, I'm going. I don't care what it was. I was semi-employed at the time. I was DJing at a local bar that I went to at the time, but I was doing that like every Sunday. I was like, man, I have plenty of fucking time. So I told my boss, I was like, look, I'm going to be gone for a month. And he knew all about the Broken Complex stuff because most of our foundation shows we would do at this bar. It was called the Little Rock. That's where I met everybody pretty much. And I still go there to this day. You actually came for my birthday last year, you and your lovely wife. That was that spot, but it was a different place, totally fucking different place, way ratchetier. I don't know if that's a word, but what you saw was a very upgraded version of what I saw 10 years ago. So he knew nobody could really come. It was just the four of us. So we hit the first place we hit, I believe was New Mexico because we're in Minus's town. He had already set up a show up there. We perform, and I'll tell you my first, this might be a little raunchy, but I'm going to be honest because this is the way I felt. I'll tell you my first groupie experience. Nothing sexual, but just pretty crazy nonetheless. I don't want to get into too much detail, but it was an interesting thing. So we're doing the show we're in New Mexico. I cannot remember what city. I think it still might have been Las Cruces. Again, 11 years ago. I have to refresh my memory. And that was all a haze anyway, because we were doing a lot of drinking. And a lot of, greenery, if you know what I mean, was being passed around too, in blunt and bong form. So that was a haze for me, a lot of that, all pun intended. So we're at this show. It's dead, by the way, mind you. A couple of the shows we did were fucking dead as fuck because they were like during the week and people had work in school. And this was obviously pre-pandemic, so people could have been out, they just weren't because everybody was doing shit the next day early. So we show up to this bar and it's like two people in there, literally, maybe three. It's two girls at the bar and then one other person. And I'm just like, so already I'm like excited but bummed the fuck out. I'm like, wow, our first show is fucking completely fucking dead. Like there's nobody here. So I'm like, this is going to be annoying, but whatever. I'm just happy to be here. So before we get on stage, I sit at the bar and this lovely, really cute Hispanic girl starts talking to me. She's like super, super cute. And we're talking and she's like, oh, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm trying to play it up because I'm on tour. So I'm trying to fucking pretend like I'm a big deal. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a rapper. We're performing here tonight. You should stick around. She didn't, by the way, but I'll tell you why. So I'm like playing it up like, yeah, we're going to be performing, it's going to be dope. You should like stick around, yada, yada, yada. And I'll never forget this. The minute I told her that and she realized that's what it was. And then I think I kind of mentioned Hoppa because I said they were all local and I mentioned Minus. I kid you not. God is my witness. She immediately shoves her tongue in my throat. She just starts making out with me, dude. And I'm just like, oh, wow, this is really fucking overwhelming, but kind of cool. But I was just like, I felt so dirty. I was like, wow, is this what it feels like? Like, bro, she didn't waste no time. She immediately just went for it. And I'm like, this chick is making out with me like right now. She doesn't know me for up from down. And all I said was that I'm performing here tonight. So in my mind, I'm like, bro, I feel like that song. What is it? Panic at the Disco? Hey, mama, I made it. I'm like, bro, I'm tripping out. I'm like, this chick is really fucking groupieing out right now. So I'm like, oh, okay, that was nice. And she's like, oh, I'll see you on stage. And I think she either got embarrassed, she realized that nobody else showed up, because I think in her mind she was like, oh, that means you're gonna pack this place up because you're Broken Complex, DJ Hoppa minus yada yada yada. Nobody shows up, bro. So I'm excited though. I'm like, oh, at least this chick will get to see me. She'll get her kiss worth. She'll get every kiss worth of a performance. And I remember I went to the bathroom, I came out, her friend are gone. They're out of there. Right as we're about to go on stage. And I'm like, you know what? She's probably embarrassed, number one, and probably number two, she realized what she did was kind of a groupie move. But also, she's like, yeah, this motherfucker ain't nobody. I'm out of here, dude. So that was a funny Las Cruces, New Mexico experience. So we performed, nobody shows up. And then we perform at another spot. I couldn't tell you the timeline, or I think it might have been the next night. We were only there a few days. We were basically in every city and every town of just literally all of a couple days, sometimes just for the night, depending on where we were. So we performed at another spot, and I just remember that was the first time that was one of the first times that I actually could feel that I had fans, because these people didn't know me. They were praising me. All the other rappers that performed at the spot. And this spot was actually, it was like it was almost like a recreational center. So it had a small stage, and there were like, it was a crowd of people there. So they were feeling me. And I'll never forget, one of the dudes was like, he goes up to Hop and he's like, who the fuck is this guy? He's like, where the fuck have you been hiding him? He's like, bro, you're a beast on the mic. And I was just like, thank you. I just was so humbled. And these were like random people. And then that day was the first time that night was the first time I ever signed my first autograph as an artist and as a fan asking me, because the only time I had ever signed an autograph, it was at karaoke like years earlier. Somebody just thought I was really good, and some chick came up to me and she's like, can I have your autograph? I was like, why? She's like, you're just a really good singer and a really good rapper, and you did that amazing. And I'm like, that wasn't my lyrics. I was just a karaoke song. But I think she was like from the Midwest, and I think she didn't know like much about hip hop. So I think the way I just delivered it, because I delivered it so well, she was like, that had to have been one of your songs. And I'm like, no, that was a Biggie song, honey. You don't know who Biggie? I'm like, you don't know who Biggie? Okay. So I signed the autograph, but that wasn't shit. The first time I officially signed an autograph as a quote unquote celebrity or well-known person was at that show. And a lady and her husband came up and they were like, you're really good. Can I have your autograph? And I was like, wow, thanks. And that was the first time I was able to do my signature Matt Star. That happened a couple more times after that, and we'll get to that in a minute. The biggest autograph I ever signed was, I'll get to that story a little bit later. But yeah, we did that show, and I think after that, it was off to Texas. So I'll tell you about the Texas. Texas was interesting. Our first show was in Fort Worth, where I had another groupie moment, but we won't get into that one. Maybe a little bit. I'll tap on it. I want to keep this. I mean, this is a rated R show, but I don't want to talk too much about too many things like that. In case some kids watch this or something like that. But I'll still give you the juicy details. So we do a show in Fort Worth. Packed fucking show, really nice. It was at this fucking local bar in Fort Worth, a local but popular bar. Like everybody in that city went to this fucking place. And a bunch of rappers performed. Some of them were kind of underground local rappers that I had kind of seen on the internet at that point. Some of them I didn't know who they were. But everybody knew who the fuck Hoppa was, and everybody knew who Broken Complex was. Because that's how much stroke Minus and DJ Hoppa had, locally in each city. Not mainstream, but very locally. They attracted a lot of people. People knew who they were from touring out there before I joined the crew. So we do this great show at Fort Worth, and on the way to the show, I have a second groupie moment, and I'm walking into the bar from the parking lot, and this random chick is passing me, and she's like really cute, and I'm just like, hey, how are you? And I'm playing it up, because I'm feeling the atmosphere, and we start talking, and it's the same spiel. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, hey, I'm performing tonight, and almost immediately, like, she didn't stick her tongue down my throat like the other girl, but she immediately like kind of groupied up, like, oh, that's dope. Like, are you part of Broken Complex? And I'm like, yeah, I'm BC, baby. Like, I'm trying to be so fucking cool. And so, mind you, I was still in my 20s. I was really young, so this is why I was acting like this. So I'm trying to be Mr. Suave, and so we she's like, oh, okay. Well, she's like, well, I'll see you after the show. Like literally like that. She's like, well, I'll see you after the show. I'll be waiting for you. And I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, that's what I'm talking about. So we put on the show, great show. I gave her my number. As soon as the show's over, she's blowing my phone up. And I'm like, okay, shit, I'll get back to her in a minute. So we're headed to an after party. So let me tell you the events of the after party. This was a funny BC tour moment. We're in this house. Everybody who was at the bar is basically there. So this house is packed. It's like a 5-bedroom house. Everybody and their mom is there. It's somewhere in like literally in the boondocks of fucking Texas. I didn't know where the fuck we were. I didn't know up from down. I had never been to Texas in my life for multiple reasons. It's like I'm in my mind, I was like, my black ass don't need to be in Texas anyway. And this is for this very reason why I thought that, because something was proven. And it wasn't really even a black moment or a racist moment. It was more of a homophobic moment. And I'll explain. So we're in this house, we're partying, everybody's getting high, everybody's drinking, we're having a good time. Again, we're playing up the whole BC thing, or at least I am. Them guys were used to this shit, so they were just like, whatever. And we have to spend the night there because I can't remember where we were driving to the next day. It might have been Arizona. I think we had to go back to the west. We were in the south, so now we're heading back to the west. So I think we were heading to Arizona. And so there's nowhere to sleep. So the three of us, so the four of us, I should say, me minus Dizzy and Hoppa, have to share this room. So we're gonna sleep in this room. Because there's nowhere else. Like I said, the house was packed. And it was like, well, we need to catch some Z's. We have a show in the morning. And everybody's like so fucked up off of just everything. So as we're like settling in, we're talking, this big, burly, like fucking corn-fed hillbilly boy. And he looked like some shit from like any racist fucking Southern movie where there's this white guy hazing somebody. And he walks in and he's like 6'5" and just corn-fed, dude, just straight, just redneck. And he walks in there. And he's like, oh, yeah, you guys did a really, he's got the accent. You guys did a really good job, kick-ass job out there. And we're like, oh, thanks, cool. So we thinking, he's complimenting us, like, cool, dope. And he's like, yeah, where you boys sleeping tonight? And we're like, here? Oh, okay, cool. But in the same room? This is what he says. And we're like, yeah, there's nowhere else. We're a crew, so we have to stick together. But like in the same room? And at this point, I'm like, what is the fuck is this dude getting at? Yeah. And then the more he goes on, it's revealed what he's actually going on about. And I'm like, he's totally like taken back by the point that there's 4 men that are gonna sleep in a room together. So now he's on some like, so now I'm realizing this is some homophobic shit. Because whenever I tell this story, I always start it off, it sounds like a racist joke. So it's like when the whole enter into a bar thing. So I always have to start, so you got a Mexican, a white man, an Asian, and a black man in a room. It always starts off that, I always joke like it literally starts off like a joke when I tell the story. But no, this is a total like homophobic thing. He literally thinks we're just going to be in there fucking each other. Like, he's not kidding. He's serious. And it's really making him mad. And he's trying to be sarcastic about it. And this just goes to show you, in 2010, there's still homophobia and racism in Texas, bro. I cannot believe this shit. And he's like, serious.
2021, they're still there.
And exactly. So you can imagine it was probably even worse 11 years ago. But he's fucking serious, dude. He's like, no, I'm serious. You boys are going to really sleep in here together, huh? He's like, I don't think that's a good idea, because I'm just going to let you know, fellas, we don't play that shit here in Texas. And he kept saying that. So at this point, I'm starting to get agitated. And I'm like, bro, you done made your fucking point already. Like, and I'm saying it, I don't want to say anything to him, because I'm like, this could really start some fucking homophobic race war up in here, dude. And I'm just like, is this motherfucker serious, dude? Is he really serious? Like, he thinks we're about to be in there messing with each other. And he's like, I'm just saying, we don't play that shit here in Texas. You boys need to find another room.
Hey, fun boys, get the room.
So he leaves, and he kept doing this shit where, like, literally, I kid you not, Vince, a few seconds would go by, maybe even a few minutes, and we would think he's gone. And all of a sudden, he would just pop his head in. I'm just saying, we don't play that shit here in Texas. I'm just like, motherfucker, get the fuck out of here, bro. Like, are you serious? He did this like 3 times, and finally he went away. So that was a fucking funny story. So I'm in my mind, I'm like, what if this fucking corn-fed hillbilly goes and gets Jethro and the rest of the boys? I'm getting the fuck out of this room.
Yeah.
Because my black ass is gonna be the first motherfucker they come and try to hang, and they think I'm gay. Like, I got two things working against me. Let me get the fuck out of here. So I leave the room. So as I'm leaving the room, I'm like, hey guys, I'm out. Good luck. I don't know what this motherfucker's up to, but he might come back with the rest of the hillbillies, and this might turn into a lynching. So I'm gonna sleep in another room so he doesn't know where I'm at. Unless he comes hunting through the house. But I was just like, let me get out of this room, dude. So I go in. So as I'm coming out of the room, lo and behold, I run into the chick that was at the bar. So I'm like, hey, I'm just about to go into this room. Just so happens I found an empty room. So I'm like, hey, let's, She's like with it. So we go in the room and we're like I don't want to go into too much detail, but we're making out. Things are getting hot and heavy, and some adult activity is about to happen. And I'm noticing there's no lock on the door. So I'm like, fuck, I need to lock this door. Then I notice there's no lock. And I'm like, fuck, you can't lock the door. So what do you do? Da, da, da. So at this point, I'm just like, fuck it, whatever. Whatever happens, happens. So we get back into doing what we're about to do. And I notice the door opens. And it's one of the rappers that was at the show. And all he does is he walks in, he looks, he tries to pretend like he's lost. He makes eye contact with the girl and then leaves. And I'm like, okay, what the fuck was that? And I get up, I turn around, her clothes are now back on. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And now I'm kind of mad too, because I'm like, okay, this fucker just cock blocked me. Like, what is going on? Like, things are about to happen right now. She is now fully clothed, bro. And she's like, yeah, that's kind of a guy I've been seeing. It's like, oh my fucking God.
Oh.
So I'm like, that's why he came in here and sauntered around and made sure you saw him.
Yeah, nigga, I'm looking for my girl Felicia. I heard she was up in one of these rooms.
And I'm just like, are you fucking serious? And in my mind, I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Can we just finish what we were doing? I don't care about none of that.
I don't care about any of that. You heard?
She's like, I want to. She's like, but I can't. I just can't. And I'm just like, oh, wow. Okay, gotcha. So she leaves. We have numbers. She's like, I promise I'll call you tomorrow. We'll link up at some point. I'm just like, chick, I'm leaving. It's like that song, I'm only in town for the night. Da, 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 that Snoop song.
Mm.
The freeze, the picture song. And in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. Or even the lyric, what does the lyric J. Cole say? We got a good thing. I'm only in town for the night. But it's part of that whole song. J. Cole mentions like now or never, because I'm leaving. So all I could do is think about lyrics like that. And I'm just like, I'm leaving, chick. So she leaves. And I'm like, all right, cool. We'll keep in touch. Because she was really sweet. And I was just like, okay, whatever. She really wanted to. She really liked me, but she just did not want to hurt this dude's feelings. So she's gone. So I finally fall asleep. Pissed off, of course, but fall asleep. Why? And I think I told you this story, and I told Clean this story when he was on the show. Why do I wake up hours later to Minus standing over me, staring at me? Randomly, I wake up and I'm like, oh, and he's like, oh, hey, what's up, Max? And I'm looking like, hey, what's up, Max? How long have you been standing there, dude? Like, he was literally he was still drinking, by the way, had a beer in his hand. The sun's coming up, and he's like standing over me, staring at me, like as if he was watching over me in the night.
I like to watch you sleep sometimes, and by sometimes I mean often.
And I was just like, Minus is so fucking weird, dude. Like, why are you staring? Why are you staring at me? And I'm like, oh, hey. Like, in my mind, I'm saying that, but I'm just like, oh, hey, what's going on, Minus? Okay, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm good. And he starts watching TV. He turns from me and just starts watching TV. And you know what's funny? I think there was like cartoons, like fucking cartoons on. He's like watching Saturday morning cartoons or some shit. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that's weird. Okay. So we leave. So now we're heading to Arizona after that whole funny incident with the hillbilly and the girl and this guy. And so Arizona was interesting. Not a lot to tell in Arizona, but Arizona was really great for a bunch of reasons. That was the first time somebody compared me to my favorite rapper. And I've told you this, and a lot of people know, my favorite rapper of all time is Redman. He's my number one. After him, it's Eminem. After Eminem, it's Ludacris. Those are my top three favorite rappers of all time, who not only I love, and of course, and you know, R.I.P. to him, DMX, of course, he'll probably be number 4. But those three. So this was the first time somebody compared me to a young Redman, and I'll get to that in a second. So we get to Flagstaff, and this is a college town. So Flagstaff is really cool because it's total college town, dude. So everybody, we're performing at this very popular bar in Flagstaff. That is literally by the college. So the entire fucking college is there. There are hundreds of drunk fucking 19, 20, and 21-year-old fucking college students. So I'm like, wow, this is fucking amazing. A bunch of young, because at the time I was young, so it was just a bunch of 20-year-olds, and I'm just like, this is gonna fucking rock, right? Not to mention, Vince, the special of the night, that night, were $2. Not $3, not $4, not $5, like the $5 footlong. $2 well drinks all night.
Wow.
So you could imagine. First, I'm like, damn, they don't got shit like this in fucking LA, like, or even New York, where I'm from. Like, I don't remember ever hearing about anything like this. So I'm like, yo, this is incredible. I literally spent $10 and was fucked up off of $10. And it was just great. So that was cool. Everybody and their mama was there. Had another semi-groupie moment. I kind of flirted with this girl. She gave me her number, kind of got impressed with, she saw me perform, yada, yada, yada. That was really cool. Now, leading up to this, I got to back up for a minute. Leading up to this, Minus and Hoppa, they were like night and day. They were thick as thieves, don't get me wrong. But these two are like night and day. And they butt heads quite a lot. And I'll never forget him and Hoppa, that first leg of the tour, butt heads quite a few times. And I think it's because they've just known each other so long. So leading up to that Flagstaff show, between the point we left that party, we stopped at a hotel for a couple hours. And then I think we spent the night there. And then the next day was the Arizona show. They get into this heated argument at the hotel. We're at a Motel 6 somewhere on fucking whatever route we were on in the middle of fucking the boondocks. They get into an argument. Minus leaves the tour. So now I'm by myself. And I have to now perform by myself a tour that is based off of an album that had 10 to 15 people on it. So now it's the Max Star show. It is the Max Star show. So I was happy, but I was also like, this is going to be really hard because there's only a certain amount of songs we could do. There's only a certain amount of things. And luckily at that point, I had kind of did a mixtape So I had a couple solo records. So I was like, well, Hoppa, let's do some of my solo shit that I've done up to this point. Or it's going to be stupid, But I'm so happy. I'm like, oh shit, this is my time to shine. So I get on stage. I'm performing a couple of the songs that aren't feature heavy. And I do a couple of my songs, and I'll never forget when I got off stage. And like I said, there were hundreds of people in there. So I'm rocking this crowd to these hundreds of people. And I'll never forget when I got off stage, a guy walks up to me, asks for my autograph, and he says, man, I just want to let you know you're dope, you're amazing. He's like, bro, you remind me of a young Redman. And it took everything in my power not to fucking break down and start just crying, dude. I was just like, really? Oh, God. I've been waiting to hear that my whole life. Like, it was such a great moment. And he was like, yeah, you got it, dude. He was like, you just have that energy. You have that, and he was comparing me to like how he felt when he listened to Redman. Not so much, I attribute some of my style to people like Redman, but I attribute to some of my style to Biggie, to Eminem, and Ludacris. Like, I'm a hybrid of those four, in my opinion, with my own original flair, Max Star flair. But he was just like, your energy, he's like, your energy, your cadence. He's like, it just reminds me of a young Redman. And I was just like, wow, that's so incredible, man. So it took everything in my power to get through that autograph because my hands were shaking. So that was a really good moment. And then I think that was it until I think at that point we drove back to LA. Did we go back to LA? Because at one point we were supposed to, and I don't know if this is the second leg of the tour or still the first, I can't remember. We were supposed to go to Portland, Oregon as well, and we never made it. And that was an interesting conversation the morning we were supposed to go, because, and I think at this point, this was the last leg of the tour, because I remember Uncle Disco had joined the tour. So this is the second. So we'll get to that in a minute. So I think after that, I think it was back to LA, and we had a foundation show that weekend. And so, yeah, I mean, that was basically the first leg of the tour. So we come back to we come back to LA, we perform a foundation, and now we're getting ready for the second leg of the tour. So the second leg of the tour, you know, we're going to Fresno. I think it was like Fresno, San Francisco. We ended up in Vegas at some point, and all great shows. So the San Francisco show, I'll briefly talk about that. So the second leg of the tour, Clean has now joined the tour. Laz has now joined the tour. Uncle Disco has joined the tour. Syra, still nowhere to fucking be found. Whatever. She's just not interested. And I think and at this point, I think that whole Skrillex thing was starting to pop off for her. So she just was not interested. And I was like, okay, whatever. She doesn't want to come. But I was just really excited because it would have been nice to have just the entire crew. And then, so those three guys joined. And then Sweet Baby Ray, rest in peace, who was one of our DJs, he joined the tour as well, just to DJ and just support. You know, he's no longer with us, sadly. He passed away in 2012. So RIP to him, Sweet Baby Ray. Good dude. Me and him used to dance battle all the time, and that was me and his thing. Whenever a pop locking song, because I'm a dancer as well. Not so much now because I'm 100 pounds heavier than I was when I was really dancing, but back in the day. But we would always pop lock and fucking do routines together. So he was a good dude, man. It was sad when he passed on, but sadly that's life. So he joined the tour, and we're hitting all these spots, and it's really fun. And so I'll tell you the San Francisco story, because that was probably still to this day one of the biggest shows I've ever done. Not only was it packed, not only was it it was at a big venue called Slim's, which is a huge venue in San Francisco, I believe still to this day. A lot of artists, big and independent, have performed there. The Who's Who's been to that place. And I'll tell you why I know that in a second. So we get there, and I'm looking at the layout of the place. It's this huge fucking stage that's like, the stage was like 15, almost, it was crazy. The stage was like, I felt like it was like 15, 20 feet up in the air. It was a really high arch stage that we stood on, and we kind of oversaw the crowd. So it looked like some shit like a rock concert where they would jump off the stage and crowd surf. And there was a couple times where I was like, I'm totally going to crowd surf, but no, I'm not. Because nobody's going to catch my fucking black ass because they don't know who the fuck I am. I'm like, they're literally going to open up and I'm going to splat to the ground like you see in certain movies. But it was great, dude. It was hundreds of people there, dude. It was packed. It was a big venue. It had a bar. It was basically an actual venue. It wasn't. It had a bar, but it was a venue. It was basically a hall. It was a concert hall with a stage, and the acoustics in there were incredible. And the entire crew, we performed everything from the album, so that felt good. And what's significant about that show, Vince, is not only the atmosphere, and what made that show as big as it was for me, we opened up for a little group called Souls of Mischief. Now, for you kids who don't know who Souls of Mischief is, they had a few hits, but their biggest hit was a song called Till 93. Infinity till, it was till 93 and Infinity, I think it was called.
93 till Infinity, yeah.
And it was Till Infinity. And the song with "This is how we chill from 93 until." So I was a little kid when that came out, but I remember that being on the radio. So when Hoppa told us we were performing and opening for Souls of Mischief, I was just like, Till 93, Souls of Mischief? Because I've been a hip hop head my entire life. So I spazzed out, dude. And when I tell you these guys were the nicest fucking guys on the planet, these motherfuckers were sweethearts, bro. They were so sweet. They were really kind. I shouldn't use the word sweet talking about hip hop artists, but they were really stand-up guys, Vince. And they treated us like equals. They didn't, they were legends at this point. Like everybody was there to see them. And I remember it was only 3 acts. It was Broken Complex, a group called Candlestick Collective. Candlestick Collective, say that 5 times fast. They were really big in San Francisco, that group, Candlestick. And I ended up working in the studio with one of those guys some months later. So shout out to them. I don't know if they're still doing their thing, but shout out to Candlespit Collective. It's Candlespit, not Candlestick. So Candlespit Collective. So we went on first. It was them, and then Souls of Mischief. So we both all opened for Souls of Mischief. So that was just a great experience. We had our own dressing room, which was really cool. So this was not only the first big show I had ever done. I had done industry shows before then, but I felt like a rap star. We had our own green room. We had our own rider. And for those who don't know what a rider is, it's when an artist, it's a request the artists have for their dressing room or their green room. So if they want There's some outrageous writers. I've heard people of wanting assorted M&Ms, assorted by color. Like I've heard stories of big stars who are like, I want M&Ms in my dressing room, but they have to be all green.
So let me ask
And
you
then there has
this,
to be a bowl of all.
because I've heard of that as well, and I heard that the reasoning for it wasn't necessarily because they only wanted green M&Ms. It was like to make sure that it was the entire thing was red. The entire writer was red, where it was like, okay, because if they didn't have a bowl of green M&Ms, then they're like, I know they didn't read everything. It was almost like a little trick.
Gotcha.
See. So I was wondering what your take on that was, if you saw anything crazy like that, or were artists just like, no, I'm going, like, if anyone in Broken Complex is like, I really want my red M&Ms, or if you're just like, nah, let's just be chill about it.
No, we were pretty chill about it, dude. We were the humble ones. Even Hoppa, who at that point was kind of well known locally around all those places, we were all humble. I know I was, definitely. I didn't have any outrageous requests at all. I was just like, dude, just give me some. I'm ready to perform. Give me a microphone. My rider. I was like, on my rider, I want a microphone. Fuck all the industry bullshit. I'm ready to kill these motherfuckers because I was the new guy. I had just joined Broken Complex literally months earlier, so I had a lot to prove. And this venue was so big, I was like, this is my fucking time to shine. To the point, I kind of wished it was still some of the first leg of the tour because I was by myself, like I had said. So this would have been a great point for me to really fucking shine. But no, the crew was there, and I was happy they were there. But no, it was nothing outrageous. Even Souls of Mischief, I don't remember seeing them ask for anything fucking stupid. And their dressing room was across from ours. So we get on stage, we kill it. The crowd is just in an uproar. People know who we are. I get on the mic. People are just like, who the fuck is this guy? And I felt really good. Mind you, too, I'm on a majority of that album. So the tour is based off the Broken Complex album. I'm on 9 records on a 10 record or on a 14 record tracked album. So I'm all over that bitch. So every fucking song we're performing, I'm on. So I'm like, yeah, I'm getting my shine on. I don't give a fuck. And I made sure that during the recording process, I kept telling Appa, like, yo, I ain't fucking around. Every beat you cook up, I'm jumping on that bitch. My vocals will be heard on every fucking one. And if I could, I would have been on every single one. But I was like, let me not be a mic hog. Let me not be a studio hog. Because there's like, 6, 7, 8 other artists that need to do their thing too.
Were there any songs on that album that you did like have a verse for, and then Hoppa was like, this is great, but like we're gonna give someone else like some space, like you're already on 9, like, or were you everything that you wrote for the album made it onto the album?
Relatively, yes. He did pull that shit one time. So, and I wasn't mad about it because technically it wasn't really supposed to be for me, but I had laid the vocals down. So there's a song on the album called and you've listened to the album. I don't know if you remember that song, but there's a song in there called Say to Me. They say to me, the truth is only love, but it's all in my mind. What they say to me, what they say to me. So I wrote that hook. A girl named Katie88 ended up singing it, who was a singer who we knew from the crew back then. But originally I recorded it, I laid it, I was gonna sing it. I wrote the hook. It was supposed to be for that song, and I thought my vocals were gonna be left on because I remember I did harmonies for it and everything. So I lay my vocals, and I think a couple days later I go to the studio and my vocals have been removed and replaced with hers, but the same lyrics that I wrote. So I wasn't entirely mad. But it was a moment where I was like, why didn't you just fucking leave me on, bro? Like, I get it. She did a good job. Katie did a phenomenal job. I was just like, this is about me. This is about Max Star. Fuck everybody else. So to answer your question, that was the only time he really did that. Other than that, everything I laid down, he left. Matter of fact, everything I laid down, he actually not only left, but added to it and he would add like sound effects and all these plugins and really cool shit. So no, I mean, I was content with I wanted more because I was just being greedy, but I was very content with my position on that album. I was heavily featured as the new artist on Broken Complex, and to the point, and I think I brought this up in our last interview, my part 1, I was the only one getting the biggest reviews from bloggers during that time. Like the other guys and of course Syra was too, because she was kind of popping during that time because of the whole Skrillex thing, so everybody knew she was. So they were praising her. But I was literally in every article I read online, and this is no exaggeration, they were getting mentions. There were whole paragraphs and sections dedicated to me. No exaggeration. And I just felt so good. And a lot of them were titled "Who the hell is Max Star?" And then it would be the editor or the journalist or whatever you want to call it, for whatever, the blogger. He would just go on and on and on about my performance. What a standout performance! Like, it was literally some shit you read in, was it Roger and Ebert, the fucking crit? Like, I felt like I was reading a Siskel and Ebert type fucking a Roper type like reviews. I was like, this is really fucking cool. I'm getting reviewed like for the first time in my music career. So that was amazing, dude. So I was, like I said, I was ready to fucking go. So at that San Francisco show, I was like, you motherfuckers are gonna know who I am. Matter of fact, one of the bloggers who followed us was at that show. And not only did he praise me for my performance on the album, he praised me for that performance in particular at Slim's. So shout out to that guy. I can't remember what his name was, but he was incredible too. He was like in the front row. And he's the one that wrote the best article. He was the one that wrote the "Who the hell is Max Star" first article, and literally dedicated an entire article to me. And these were notable blogging hip hop sites back then. Even though the internet was just kind of really like becoming as viral as it became, like the whole 2000 into 2010 into 2011 era was like, we were a part of that ride of that era where blogging really was becoming a thing. Streaming was starting to become a thing, going viral. YouTube was blowing the fuck up. Things were just going really looking good. So we perform, we kill it. So this is another groupie moment. This will be the fourth. This will be the fourth official Max Star on Tour groupie moment that I have. This one, kind of like some of the other ones, didn't end well either. And here's the crazy thing about it. All these so-called groupie moments, none of them ended good. That was the thing. I'm like, I'm doing all this. I'm thinking I'm a rap star. I'm like, these are great groupie moments, but yet I'm not, there's no payoff. Like I don't want to sound like misogynistic or objectifying or making it seem like women are like a sex toy or anything like that. So I'm trying to dance around that, but like none of them ended in like hooking up. Like, and maybe they shouldn't have. And to be honest with you, it was probably the safest thing, to be honest with you, because you don't want to be doing that. That's a recipe for disaster. But again, not to objectify or sound sexist. I just wanted it to. I was young. I was dumb. I just really wanted this to. None of them. There was no payoff. So I was like, okay, cool. So now here we are at the fourth one. So I get off stage. So now this quote unquote groupie, and I know that's not even a great PC term to use, but I'm going to use it because that's just, everybody knows what that is. So this female is all into me, really cute white chick. She's really into me. She's like, you performed amazing. And with her, it's like little to no work at all because she's already seen the goods. Like she saw me do my thing. So I'm like, this is in the bag, right? Really? So I'm hanging with her, I'm drinking with her, and of course we're making plans to hang out afterwards. I'm like, hey, I think I was sharing a motel room with Laz and Clean, but I was gonna kick their asses out because that was what we talked about. If anything went down, gotta go. So I'm like, hey, come back to our hotel, we'll kick it, we'll smoke, we'll drink, and she's with it all. And this is something hilarious that happened with this situation. So the show ends, mind you, we meet Souls of Mischief backstage. They're really great guys. They're praising us. They're like, good job. You guys did a great fucking bang up job. I'm like, yo, you guys are like my hip hop heroes. That's amazing. Thank you for saying that. They're also Bay Area legends. I don't know if you know that. Souls of Mischief. They're kind of like Bay Area, California legends. So that felt really good. And so leading up to hanging out with this girl, like I'm kicking it. We were kicking it the whole night, literally, drinking together. And then it comes time to hang out. So the show has now ended. And I'm like, hey, so you want to hop? We had like a tour van. I'm like, you're more than welcome to hop in our tour van and come hang out with us. And she's like, I'm down. That was until one of the main members of Souls of Mischief pulled basically what the guy pulled when I was in Texas, but just not in such a heated moment. One of the members of Souls of Mischief literally walks up, and still shout out to those guys. They were great to us. But at this point, I wasn't a factor no more. He had his blinder set on her. I can't remember which member it was, but it was one of the main guys. This nigga walks over, I kid you not, and I'm like, nobody, he doesn't even know that I'm there. He's not paying attention to me. And bro, when I tell you, he walked over, was like, sup, you want to kick it? She was like, yeah. This bitch took the front. She was out of there, bro. Didn't even look at me. And that was the moment I was like, yep, he's the real star. Like, I'm talking about all these groupie moments. That was a real groupie moment. Like, she was just, whoever was the bigger star. And he literally walked up to her and took her right out of my hands, bro. And she was gone. I was so fucking livid. I was like, this is the fourth fucking time. This is the fourth fucking time this shit did not pay off, bro. Like, I was just like, what is going on? But I was the new kid in town. Did nobody really know who I was? It was just she was, all these girls were just mesmerized by the glitz and the glam of us performing on stage, and we're Broken Complex. We're sharing the same stage as Souls of Mischief, yada, yada, yada. This nigga walked up, said a few words, and she was gone. And I never saw her again. And of course I got roasted for it by the by the rest of the boys in the tour van. They're like, Max got fucking cock blocked by one of the members of Souls of Mischief. Like, he straight took your chick. And I was just like, shut the fuck up, whatever. I said, if anybody's gonna do that, I'm happy it was at least him. Because it could have been somebody lesser. And then I would have been like, wow, okay. That sucked.
At least you can at least sort of hang your hat on that and be like, all right, it is what it is.
Well, I mean, it's not to the same degree, but that's like, being fucking Jaquan, and then you're talking to this chick and you're kind of big, but 50 Cent comes and he's like, hey, she's going with 50 Cent, bro.
Yeah.
She knows who the bigger star is here. So that's how I felt. I was like, cool. Gotcha. So that was a fun show, incredible show. To kind of wrap up the whole tour thing, because at this point we were heading back. It was time to. We had 2 shows in LA. So I'll briefly, and I brought this up, and for all you people that want to rehash that interview we did with Clean, rehash it because it'll be more in depth about the antics of Uncle D. I'll keep it brief about the Uncle D thing because me, Clean, and you went into that in our episode with him. So again, all you folks out there, if you want to go more into detail about Uncle Dina's antics in Vegas and in the LA shows, go watch episode, what was that, episode 7?
7.
Watch episode 7 with Clean, season 2, and it'll be more in depth. But I'll be brief about it. We're in Vegas. Uncle D's on the tour. He gets super, super, super drunk. He is fucked up. He's climbing on speakers. He's literally kind of ruining the performance, but we all love him, so we don't care. I remember Clean was so pissed off. I've never visibly seen Clean pissed off before, but he was mad because Uncle D was just a mess, bro. He was just so drunk and fucking probably high on some weed, probably fucked. He was just fucked up out of his mind. And it was just a botched Vegas show. And that was the first time I had ever went to Vegas. That's the crazy thing about it. So that was a fun thing. So if you want more in depth about that, like I said, go. Then there was the LA show. We get to the LA show. We perform at some place, I think, in the city of Santa Monica. I think it was in Santa Monica. We performed. This is actually the last show, I believe, of the tour. And then we did a foundation to close out the tour. Again, Uncle D, super drunk. All I want to tell you is, at one point, he jumped up on stage, climbed up on a speaker, and grabbed a ceiling fan in mid-spin. Put his hand in the blades, and in mid-spin, decided to, so that was fun. I'm trying to think. After that, I got something flying around in my apartment. It looks like a fucking mosquito. I have to try to find that thing and kill it. I hate mosquitoes. I thought I saw something like flying across the fucking floor anyway. But anyway, I'll find him somewhere around here. So I think we did one more foundation show. And then I think that was it. That pretty much. So to wrap the whole tour up thing, dude, it was an amazing experience. It was the first time I had ever toured musically. So many more. There's actually some more experiences I could talk about, but we'll just leave it at that. You know, the guys were great. There were a couple little arguments, a couple little debates between me and a couple of the, you know, Hoppa and a couple of the guys. You know, there was the whole heated uh, argument and debate between Minus and we went to a lot of casinos. I remember that was a thing because I'm not a casino gambling guy, but those guys love that shit. Every fucking town we went into en route, we would stop at a casino to the point I was sick of it because I was like, I don't fucking gamble. I don't have the money to gamble. They just wanted to fucking go gamble. They wanted to go to casinos. So I'm like, I'm just gonna I'll just sit at the bar and get drunk.
He drinks a whiskey drink, he drinks a vodka drink, he drinks a lager drink, he drinks a cider drink.
I saw a fight in a Waffle House between a server and the cook in a packed Waffle House. It was the first time I had ever been to a Waffle House. We're somewhere in Texas. We're at a Waffle House, and there's a fight breaks out. I don't remember what the issue was. All I heard was nigga this, nigga, because it was a black as fuck, like it was a very urban Waffle House. A lot of black folks in there. Because we were like in the deep part of Texas. Like, you know, around like the nigga neighborhoods, I would say. So it was just nigga this, fuck you, that's my tip, nigga. These niggas start tussling, and that was it. That was hilarious. So that was funny. And then I'll remember this one time, and then we'll wrap it up. A restaurant we went to in Texas, I think it was a Cracker Barrel. I had never been to Cracker Barrel, which is, they're delicious, by the way. They're amazing. Have you ever been to a Cracker Barrel?
Yes.
It's amazing. Amazing place. First time I had ever went to one. One of the waitresses steals a tip from another waitress. That was interesting. And did it right in front of us. And I remember me, Hoppa, and like Dizzy were like, she just stole that other waitress's tip. It was just a lot of funny little things like that, dude. But to wrap it up, dude, it's just all those little funny tidbits aside, the overall experience really opened my eyes to music, the internet, and then fandom, feeling like an established artist. But the number one thing that what really did it for me was the fact that I had traveled to places I had never been before in my life. Like I'm a city boy. I've been to New York and LA. That's really about it. I went to Mexico one time. That was a horrible experience. I've been to Tennessee once as far as family. I'm trying to think. That was really about it. It was always LA and New York, LA and New York. Like I didn't travel much up to that point. And now here I am. I've been to Texas, I've been to Arizona, I've been to the Bay Area, you know, so I'm just like, this is great. Not only am I experiencing something great musically, I'm also getting to travel. So that was the biggest thing too. I got to see places I had never seen before. So shout out to that tour, man. That was good times. And then we came back to LA. We had a foundation, and then it was back to work. Back to work.
Cool. All right. So we're about an hour into the interview. Tour's over. Tell us about, I guess, the remaining time you had with Broken Complex once you got off tour.
That was really rough because once the whole Funk Volume Hobson thing that me and Clean and I've talked about on the show before, and then the whole thing me and Clean talked about on his episode, once that came into play, that was what you call a gift and a curse. So right around 2011.
Easy album.
Oh, there you go. That's right. The Blueprint 2. Yeah, good reference. You know your shit. A very underrated album. They shitted on that album. That was actually an underrated album. He had some good cuts on there.
Well, compared to the original Blueprint, I mean, Blueprint 1 was just
a classic,
like pretty perfect from top to bottom.
Yeah.
So
no, classic. But that second one was good too. They need to give that its flowers as well. But they never championed that second album. Yeah, it was a gift and a curse because it brought so much new. Like 2011 and 2012 were the biggest years for Broken Complex. Like that tour, doing all that stuff in 2010 and in 09, the end of 09, that was great, but that was all local stuff. This is when the mainstream shit started kicking in because we were getting the rub from Funk Volume. And for those who don't know who Funk Volume is, I don't need to explain it. Google it. And believe me, 150,000 things will show the fuck up. And then you'll know Laren is right. They were kind of a big deal. So we became kind of a big deal because Hoppa was their DJ. And Broken Complex was his product, his baby. So we were getting, I remember like he would post stuff. Like at this point, Hoppa was a celebrity. I kid you not. Because Hobson was so big and he's DJing for Hobson. And then they had Swizz, Jaron Bitten. So Funk Volume and Dizzy Wright who I was in the studio with, didn't get to record with. That's a whole nother story. Not happy about that. At one point, I was supposed to do some stuff with Hobson. That never jumped off.
Wow.
Yeah, for you folks who don't know who Hobson is, another one. Google him. Believe me, you'll know. He was a big deal. He still kind of is, but he was definitely a big deal from 2011 to 2013, 14. It was all about Funk Volume from an indie standpoint. They were the new strange music. Like they were blowing the fuck up, bro. And they were viral. Everything was fucking viral on the internet, and we were linked up with them. So I remember seeing my numbers on my fan pages like go up. My followers were going up, and I'm just like, this is really happening. We're actually getting some rub. I could actually say I'm popular. I could actually say I'm kind of internet famous. You know, it got to the point where I was Googleable. You know, it got to the point I was put on on DJ Hoppa's Wikipedia page. Like, I was like, who the fuck gets on a Wikipedia page? Like, you have to have accurate information to be on a wiki page. I'm on his page. Like, I'm not highlightable, unfortunately, because I don't have my own article. But still, it's just my name is mentioned on a Wikipedia page, and it was because of all that. My videos, my solo videos, were all going viral. I did a video with this kid named Self Provoked, who's I think still kind of bubbling in the market right now. You know, within a matter of weeks, that fucking video hit like 3K, 300K in like 2 weeks, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm in this video. I mean, now it's probably like at 1 million or something, but back then it was like in a few short weeks, I was at like 300, 400, 500K, and I was like, this is incredible. And I'm featured heavily in that song. It's called Picture Perfect or Perfect Picture. And so that was great. And it was all because of this whole, we were under the umbrella of Funk Value. So that was the gift. The curse was, at this point, Hoppa was just too busy to do shit. He stopped, in my opinion, stopped caring. A lot of people will watch this and probably be like, you're exaggerating. I can only say from my perspective as an artist there. Clean said the same thing. We all talked about it on his episode. Hoppa just wasn't interested in a lot of broken, complex stuff at that point, and it was his product. And maybe it was because he was busy, but in my opinion, it was just like, I don't think he just wanted to focus on that. He was afraid he was going to lose that, so he had to cling on to that. So I suffered, Clean suffered, Last suffered, everybody. And he just certain things he would not follow through with. We were supposed to do, so we do a mixtape right around the end of 2011, beginning of 2012. Me and one of the DJs, his name is DJ Mister. Shout out to him, because he was a sweetheart about this whole thing. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have even gotten some of this done, let alone all, because Hoppa just did not give a fuck. So we're doing this mixtape because I want to ride the wave of this Funk Volume fame we're getting. And at that point, I did a couple singles. I did a single called Fast Lane, which got some good numbers, YouTube-wise, some good hits. And I'll tell you that story in a minute, but let's talk about the mixtape real quick. And then I'll go back to that whole Fast Lane experience, because that was my first official Broken Complex soiree. That was my first fucking big thing. And so we start this mixtape, and I can already tell from the gate, Hoppa's like just disinterested in a Max Star mixtape. And I'm doing this with DJ Mister, and we're cranking out all these tracks. We're recording this. We're recording at his house, DJ Mister's house, because Hoppa just wasn't really granting us studio time. He did not want to fucking give us really much studio time for this. At the same time, too, Uncle D was doing his mixtape, the WTF mixtape. And Hoppa was just more focused on that. And I guess, him and Uncle Disco were really good friends, and he just didn't give a fuck about me all that much. So it was just like, yeah, I'm focused more on his shit. But we ended up getting it done. There was a lot of great tracks on it. The single on that mixtape is Fast Lane. And so we nailed the mixtape. And the day it's supposed to be released, Hoppa's supposed to, because he's in charge of all that. So Hoppa's supposed to be doing all of this, prepping for the release of this mixtape and doing all this posting and all this social media presence. And I think he was either on tour or about to go on tour, and he did the most lackluster promotion for that mixtape in the history. It was called A Gentleman and a Scholar, which I named that mixtape that. It was a play on the fact of DJ Mister, that was his name, which were his initials, because his real name was Matt Ryder. So it was DJ Mister, DJ MR. But the whole gentleman and the scholar thing is one of my AKAs, one of my monikers is the scholar, Max Star, AKA the scholar. It's one of my, which means you're an expert. It's one of my little, the little quotes and little trademark signatures that I have. So I was like, oh, the scholar. And I was like, his name is DJ Mister. And who's more gentlemanly than a Mister? Like, you say somebody Mister, it's a gentleman. So I was like, oh, that'll be a good play on of the term, a gentleman and a scholar. So that's what I named the mixtape. And it was pertaining to his name and mine. And just lackluster promotion. I did 2 singles off that mixtape. I did Fast Lane and I did a song called Baby Back Love, which I got profusely teased about by some of the BC guys and Hoppa because I'm singing on it. And their whole big thing was that I can sing, but I can't. But yet I'm on every track, every record where there's mostly singing, I'm the one singing. So it's like, my singing can't be that fucking bad. You motherfuckers want me doing hooks on every song.
That's
So
that's interesting because I always felt like, I mean, just me personally, I always thought you were a very strong singer. So I don't know. That just strikes me as odd. Did they not like think that you were like maybe on key in that song or something? Or were they saying like overall, were you not a good singer? Because I mean, you make a strong point in terms of, all right, yeah, if you were so bad, then why are you responsible for singing hooks to all these songs? So like, was it the premise of the song Baby Back Love? Like, I'm not sure exactly, or maybe they were just teasing you just to tease. Maybe they were just like, oh, you're a tight-knit group, we're gonna find something to sort of get on you. But yeah, I don't know, that whole you can't sing thing, I don't know. I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but that just seems odd to me.
And thank you, man, thank you for saying that. I think I'm a pretty strong singer. I think I know I sing professionally. I've done choir, I've done theater, everything singing wise I've done. I've been there. I've done a lot of theater. I've done a lot of musical theater. So I'm a trained singer, and it was just like, yeah, they would shit on me about that. Like you said, they would, but yet
again, was it just that song,
or
are you singing in general?
In general. Hoppa used to, on a regular basis, tell me I could not sing, and nobody in the rest of the crew thinks you could sing. And I was just like, that's bullshit. You're just being a dick.
Then he would put you on like what other songs you sang?
I mean, so I did the hook,
right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, every fucking song. If you want, let's talk about the album alone. I did one of our singles on that album, "This Life in This Life." I did the hook for that.
Good Old Days. I mean, you all
wrote the. I mean, everything, dude.
Yeah.
Good Old Days. Well, you kind of, yeah. Good Old Days. I did. Yeah.
Well, because you sang, and then I feel like Laz and Clean didn't sing. They're kind of like rap saying, like, "What happened to the good old days? What happened to the good old days?" You were the one who was actually hitting notes.
The notes, yeah. No, I was singing, and you're right. They were doing the posse cut stuff where they would jump in as a posse. That's what you call a posse cut when the whole crew fucking jumps in on the hook or does a cadence. So they would do the posse cut portion, and I was doing the melodies, and the harmonies, and I did it on that. I did it on Idol Worship. We talked about that on the Clean episode, to where they left and came back, and my shit sounded like fucking. You would have thought it was a fucking choir, the way I did like 8-9 part harmonies.
Now, did you hear anyone else from BC say that you couldn't sing, or were you going based on Hoppa being like, I don't think you can sing, and also no one else thinks you can sing? Or did like anyone else actually say like, no, you can't?
I never heard not one person say, other than him, that I cannot sing. So to me, it sounded like he was just either passing the buck or just throwing them under the bus, because he just wanted to prove his point that I'm just not a good singer. And it really goes back to what I was talking to my younger brother about this before, because he's a producer, and he saw the whole broken comp. Like, we talk about it all the time, because me and my younger brother are starting our own production company. Me, him, and 2 of his friends. We've got our own music production company. I'll shout all that out at the very end of the show. Just remind me when we're done, because I do want to talk a little bit about that. That'll be at the end of the interview. But I would talk to him because he saw the whole broken complex thing through my perspective. He saw what I went through. He saw the trials and tribulations. He's a family member, so he witnessed all of it. He was either there or he saw it online, because we would post so much shit. I would talk to him about it. He was a little bit younger. He was a teenager at that time, and I was in my 20s, so he knew what the fuck was going on. But I made a point of telling him that I think a big part of the reason Hopper would say stuff like that, a big part of the reason he was lackluster about promoting me, the reason it just wasn't I was a priority, but really I wasn't. I think, I don't want to say intimidated, but I think he was just bothered by the fact that I was an artist. And I think what in his mind, it was like, just be a rapper. And I'm all for just being a rapper, but I am a fucking artist at the end of the day. I am a music artist. You know what I'm saying? And by that, when I say that, not only do I rap well, I'm a singer, I am a songwriter, I do song arrangement. I'm not a producer, I don't do beats, but I have a good ear for music. I know how to layer, I know how to do harmonies. I'm an artist. I know how to do all that. And I think he just didn't like that. I think it just kind of annoyed him. I think it was just like, you're a rapper. We're just going to call you that. Rapper shouldn't be singing. Rapper shouldn't be doing this. And it's like, Hobson's doing some of that shit too, bro.
Yeah, and this is also
Like-
like when Drake started like really kind of blowing up too. And I feel like this was when a lot of rappers started trying their hand at like not like trying to like do like Frank Ocean songs, but just be like, oh,
harmonies, melodies.
There's enough like rapping, singing, kind of like melodic
50
stuff.
Cent was doing it. 50
Yeah, exactly.
And Ja Rule were doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But I could really actually like sing and harmonize, and I think he just didn't care for it. And it's funny you bring up Drake. They used to call me their little. It was a dig at me, but it was also a compliment. It was more of a dig from Hoppa, but the rest of the guys thought it was cool. They used to call me the Drake of the Valley, the San Fernando Valley. That was their moniker for me, because I knew how to do harmonies and melodies and hooks. And Drake was hot during that time.
Yeah.
So obviously we're not on that level. I wasn't on that level, and neither was Broken Complex. But I'm just saying that was their little thing for me. They would call me the Drake of the Valley. So yeah, I don't get it, and I stopped getting it. I just did my thing, and as long as he allowed me to, I was like, well, you can't stop me, bro. I mean, he could. It was his label, but I'm saying as long as you're allowing me to do my shit and you're putting it out, the song "Perfect Picture," I sing the hook on that.
Yeah.
I try to paint a perfect picture, but the image I envision, I sing the hook on that.
And
that was
that got, like you said, a lot of views and a lot of comments, and most like you said in the past, like a lot of them were like, what's the name, self-provoked.
They were like, geared. A lot of the comments were geared towards him. Yeah,
but if you were that bad, there would have been comments being like, "Who told this dude he could sing? Get him off the hook," or something like that. That would have been at least brought up.
I agree. No, nobody. There's thousands of comments under that video, and most of them obviously are for self-provoked because he was the bigger star, and he was the young kid, and all the girls. It was kind of we used to call self-provoked. We used to call him the Justin Bieber of the Valley, because most of his fan base were like young Latina girls that loved him because he looked young, he was young, and they just loved him. And he's Latin, so that was it. That was his demographic. So most of the comments are from them, and then some of the dudes that do chime in that speak about me, they say highly things. I will say one thing, and I'm not sure if it's still there. YouTube might have flagged it, and this is the dark part. This is the dark part of the web. This is the dark web. If you look through the comments, and I don't know if it's still there, but it's either in the comment section of my Fast Lane video or this. I think it's for this. It might have even been the Cypher Effect. I can't remember. But I know for sure it's one of those three. But I think it's the self-provoked video. Somebody in the comment section said, and I quote, I'm trying to do this verbatim. This is what they said, literally verbatim. One of the persons in the comment section said, self-provoked was all right, but the nigger gassed. That is exactly what somebody put. So I've never been insulted and complimented ever in my life like that. That was what you call an insult, a racist insult, and a compliment. He's basically saying self-provoke was okay, but that black guy, the N-word, the word gas means you're lit. You did that. And I'm reading this shit. I'm just like, wow, who the fuck says that? And I think it's in that video. And I just was like, okay. I mean, obviously as a black man, I was offended, but I looked at that and I was just like, really? Okay, bro. You took the time to write that shit. Cool. But I'm not the type of person, because I've been viral enough, especially during that era, to where I've had multiple comments said about me on YouTube and on social media. And I've had people downgrade me, talk shit. I've done so many different music forums to where it was populated enough by compliments where people would talk shit. And I would have some good comments. For instance, so it brings me to the Fastlane story real quick. My first official single ever was Broken Complex, as far as like a project and what I like to call the Hobson era. That's what I call that Broken Complex. I actually call my era, part of the Broken Complex era, the golden era. Like I told Clean this on the episode we did with them. I said I feel like from 2009 till I left in 2013, 2014, I was like, I feel like that 4 year gap right there. I feel like we were the attitude era of indie hip hop, if that makes sense to you. Because I just feel like it was just good shit going on. And in the attitude era, in the WWE, WWF at the time, that was their best era. That's so much great shit was going on during that time. So I always compare it to that. I compare where the attitude era of, or I call it the Hobson era too, because Funk Volume was helping us out during that time too. So we do this Fastlane video, and Funk Volume at the time, Hoppa of course was with Funk Volume. He had toured with them heavily at this point. Everybody knew who Hoppa was. He was practically famous, at least internet famous he was. So Funk Volume would do this thing weekly where they would post on their Facebook page called Turn It Up or Turn It Down. So they would post somebody's music video, track, SoundCloud link, whatever, something they're streaming. They would post it from an up-and-coming indie artist or an relatively unknown artist. Sometimes they would do famous artists, but they would relatively do unknown artists. And that's what it was called. Turn It Up or Turn It, I think it was Turn It Up or Turn It Down Fridays. So Hoppa, we shoot the video. So I record Fastlane. I record that record. Then I shoot the little music video. Mind you, I'm the first music video I'm the first solo artist music video, as far as at least in that era, that Hoppa, with his own camera that he shot himself, I was the guinea pig. So that was another accolade under my belt. I was the first video Hoppa ever shot, ever, with himself as a DP or as a whatever, you want to call it, videographer. So I always remind people of that. Like I broke that ice for that whole thing. So we shoot the Fastlane video. Very simple. It was a one-night shoot. We shot it by the LA, by a dam, by the 101 freeway. I don't know if you've seen that video. That's the shot where you can see the cars going behind me. We shot that over the overpass. We shot some of it in the Broken Complex studio. The Odessa House is what they called it. Clean made a point of bringing that up. We did a lot of shit at that Odessa House. That was the Broken Complex headquarters, the Odessa House. So we shot some scenes at the Odessa House, and he edits it like right then and there. Came together, real cool video, simple, straight to the point. Now time to promote Magstar. So Hoppa, and I think he did it more for himself than me, but I was still appreciative and humbled for the opportunity. He said, he told me, I'm going to present this to Funk Volume and Hobson and Dane, who ran Funk Volume. He said, I'm going to have them watch the video, and we're going to post it on the Turn It Up or Turn It Down Fridays. And I was like, oh, that's fucking great. You guys have millions of followers. I'll be seen and I'll be heard. So the day comes, and I'll never forget, I was in Colorado visiting an ex-girlfriend of mine at the time. I was visiting her. And so he gives the video to Funk Volume. They're like, okay, we'll do it. We'll post it on our Facebook page. So I'm thinking this is going to get some hits and some good views. Now the song is very trappy, but I still use good lyrical content. I still flip my words. Like I don't really dumb my shit down just enough to where it's a hit song. If I'm making a hit song, or if I'm making a record that I feel should get some radio play, I'll dumb down my shit just enough, but still have some lyrical content, because I don't mumble. Even when I trap out, I do trap records. I'll have some lyrical prowess about myself still about it. Some people can't stand that. Some people think that's fucking great. And I'm just like, that's what I'm bred from, lyricism. I can't help it. So even when I do my radio records or my hit songs or whatever the fuck you want to call it, I mean, I've never had a hit song, but I'm just saying, when my mind is in, this should be on the radio, I dumb down my lyrics a little bit. So for this, I slightly dumb down my lyrics, but it's a trap song. It hits like a trap song. It hits like a 2012 trap song. So they post it, and I remember the morning I wake up to like, my phone is like sizzling from notifications from the BC, because we had a closed group page Um, and I was tagged in a bunch of stuff, So I'm getting a bunch of notifications from the group page, the closed group page that we had on Facebook. And it's just this entire conversation about the Fastlane video. And I remember before we got into any discussion, real discussion about it, before I chimed in, I remember the last thing Hoppa put was, go to Funk Volume's page, read the comment section, dissect what you're reading. And he's telling me and DJ Mister this, because the song was a single for a gentleman and a scholar. So DJ Mister was technically, it was his single as well, even though he didn't produce it. Now, mind you, Fastlane was produced and shot by DJ Hoppa. That was his track. That was his editing. He shot, edited, and then produced the record as well. So that's his beat. So he's like, look at it, dissect it, and see where we went wrong, and let's try to improve. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Okay, was it that bad? I mean, I was like, this was your idea. Okay. So lo and behold, I go to the group, I go to the fan page section, and it is, lo and behold, a string of shitty comment, you suck, you're this. And I'm laughing at this because I'm like, no, this does not suck, but okay, I know what this is. You guys are a bunch of Funk Volume fans. And the fact that somebody from Broken Complex, who you're not familiar with, is trying to infiltrate your whole Hopsin groupie, fanboy and fangirl, ideology, you're just not having it. So they're tearing me to shreds. Because the record was pretty dope. It was a pretty decent record. Go back and listen to it. Like, for all you people out there, go to my SoundCloud, MaxStar83, SoundCloud.com/MaxStar83. It's on there. Listen to it. Pretty good record. If not, go to YouTube and search Max Star Fastlane Broken Complex. It'll pop right up because it got some good hits. But this is why the hits were good, but the comments that came with the hits weren't. So they're just shitting on this record. They're shitting on the video. It's this, it's that. People are making fun of me. All this and that. You suck. I'm just reading this and I'm just like, wow, these are just and most of Funk Volume's fan base were children. They're a bunch of fucking teenagers. And I'm like, you know what? It's because I'm not Funk Volume. And then it was DJ Silly Kid, who was one of our producers / DJs. He produced my first Retribution Part 1 record. He made the point of saying that he was like Laren, he called me Laren or Max. They probably called me Max. Because they all used to call me Max. It was rare they called me Laren. And he's like, Max, DJ Mister, like, don't sweat it. He's like, to be honest with you, there are a bunch of little Hopsin groupies. If you're not Hopsin, if you're not Funk Volume, they're gonna shit on your shit. Just because it's just trendy to do that. It's internet shit. It's trolling. So it was just rip the sheds, but it got some good hits. And then that was the fan, but the Facebook page. But if you actually went to the YouTube video, it was more shitty comments with the occasional few that were like, that was pretty dope, So that was just the shit I had to deal with when it came to that, dude. That whole Funk Volume thing, again, a gift and a curse, because it brought some attention to Broken Complex, but I got shitted on a lot because I just wasn't Hopsin. And I felt like I was trying to compare, to the point I was putting ideas to Hoppa, like, yo, let's make me, and I didn't want to be, but I was just like, from a marketing standpoint, I would tell him, let's make me the Hopsin of Broken Complex. I could do the Ill Minds of Hopsin type things, which was going to be my Retribution series. I was like, I got the lyrical content. I'm a spitter like he is. I could also write songs like he does, because Hopsin is a good artist. Shout out to him. But Hoppa he would just shoot down a lot of shit. Everything was just, nope, I'm good. We'll see. I was supposed to get a record release party for Gentleman and a Scholar, and it just fell through because he just didn't follow through on it. He just didn't care. That was going to be exciting. He promised me that was going to happen, and never really had a discussion with the bar owner we were supposed to do it at. He just left it as and didn't make a big thing about it. The day it was released, again, just shitty promotion. He barely posted it. It's not even on their website anymore. He has gone as far as taking that shit down. It's no longer, I checked. Matter of fact, a lot of my shit, most of my shit, Broken Complex, that's archived, are the videos. Obviously the Broken Complex album, because he's not going to get rid of that, because that was a group effort. That was a record label effort. But my Gentleman and the Scholar mixtape, gone. It's not even on the website. It's still on like Dat Piff and stuff like that. But he looked, either he did or somebody from management did, Mike or David Govia. Somebody took it down, and I was just like, that is really fucking shitty. Because no matter how things ended, I was still an artist during that time that is still part of your discography, that is still should be in the archives, and it's gone. And a lot of my shit is gone, you know. But they just the videos they can't get rid of. I mean, they could, but they're not because there's too much content with the videos, and I've been on too many songs. But just insulting. I was just like, really? You guys took this shit down? Okay. So that was one of the final straws. And then I'll tell you what the last few days, last few weeks of Broken Complex for me were like. At this point, Hoppa was on tour all the time. You barely saw him. Most of the sessions were just me, Clean, and Laz. Again, if you guys want to rehash that conversation, look at episode 7. It'll explain more about how literally every song was just me, Laz, and Clean. Because Hoppa, nobody was around. So the last few weeks, I just kind of noticed that certain things. First of all, we were all administrators for the fan page, for our Facebook page. He took us all off. So we had no power. He just made himself an administrator. Okay, fair enough. This is your label. Because we would use that to promote ourselves. From a BC standpoint, we weren't selfish, but I got fans doing shit like that. He must have caught on to that and was like, nope, that's not happening. So he fucking took us all off as administrators on the fan page. Okay, cool, fair enough. Then on the closed group page, I'm noticing he's just got a lot of qualms about a lot of things. At one point, a merch hat. They had because he was doing so well with Funk Volume. They had DJ Hoppa merch. We had Broken Complex merch. We had shirts. I used to be decked out with BC stuff. We had hats, beanies, shirts, apparel, hoodies, all that shit.
You were like John Cena of Broken Complex.
Right? Yeah. I was fucking decked out, dude. I looked like fucking John Cena. I had the fucking armbands, the headbands. I was all decked out with Broken Complex shit. But because Hoppa was getting some traction with Funk Volume, he had his own merch, and it was selling. So I remember one day we were in the studio, and I think most of the crew was there. This was like 2012, and I'll never forget. I don't remember what led into it, but I remember waking up to a discussion on our closed group page that did not look like a good discussion. And when I finally went into it and I looked at the topic of the base of the conversation, it was Mike who, honestly, like the shit he said and the way he reacted was a dick piece of shit move. And I have not liked the dude since. I haven't seen him since then, but still, like if I were to ever see him, I'd be like, get the fuck out of my face, bro. Like, who the fuck do you think you are? He is cussing everybody out because a hat went missing, a DJ Hoppa hat. So not only is he upset that maybe possibly somebody stole something, but I think he was just being a fucking errand boy for Hoppa. It was just, oh my God, our master, somebody stole his merch. He was just trying to prove himself to be this great minion. And that's what pissed me off too, because it's like, you're a pussy, dude. You're not tough, you're not hard. He's a tall, lanky, skinny white boy with fucking glasses and long hair. He looks like a goof. He literally looks like Goofy with glasses. He looks like a fucking goof. He's a clown. So he's trying to be tough in this closed group page, fucking shit, talking about, and he said this, and word for word verbatim, he says, which one of you tasteless fucks stole a DJ Hoppa hat? And I read that shit and I'm like, bro, who the fuck are you talking to? Tasteless
that's coming
fucks.
in hot.
Not only coming in hot, bro, that's unprofessional. We're a record label. We're not your buddies. Some of the guys were, but I wasn't. You don't know me like that. Which one of you tasteless fucks stole? And he writes this very boldly, like as if he was going to back this up with fists. And that's what pissed me off too. I'm just like, bro, you're not hard, bro. You're not hard. Calm that shit down, bro. Like, fall back. So it goes into this whole long discussion of who stole it. I'm like, I didn't steal shit. Nobody stole anything. What the fuck are you guys talking about? I was there at the studio. Clean was there. I think Laz, maybe Uncle D was there. Nobody stole anything. What the fuck are you talking about? And then, of course, it's revealed that fucker or David Govia or somebody else, it was just misplaced. And I was like, you know what? And I'll never forget, DJ Mister made a point of saying this. First of all, silly kid, because I said some stuff, but I was like, I have to watch my tongue because I want to fight this dude. Like, we could throw, like, I don't know who you think you're. I'm not. Don't talk to me like that. I don't play that shit. especially when I didn't steal. Fucking now you're accusing people of stealing, number one, and you're insulting us. So I didn't like that. But I'll never forget, Silly Kid was the first person to kind of check him. And he was like, bro, I understand you're upset. He's like, but what you're saying right now is super unprofessional. You're better than that. And I was just like, yeah, you go, Silly Kid. And then DJ Mister, after it was all said and done, when Mike, first of all, he doesn't apologize. He gives some half-assed bullshit, like, reasoning for why he thought it was stolen. But he's like, oh, don't worry, guys, the merch has been found. And I remember DJ Mister's response to that in the group page was, well, that's great. He's like, but how was it found? He's kind of like, you need to kind of explain. He's like, because, and he says this, and I quote, DJ Mister says, because I kind of want to know what the outcome is after being called a tasteless fuck. And I was just like, yeah, you go, Mister. And then I kind of said some things. I was just like, listen, I understand the severity of the situation. It's merch. You guys are paying for that. But I kind of said the same thing. I was like, I'm not going to be disrespected, though. Mike didn't say shit. He didn't respond to nobody. He tucked his tail like a fucking coward and didn't even apologize, dude. And I was just like, you know what? And then here's the funny thing. I think for weeks, nobody saw him. I think the studio was just like David Govia, me and Clean and Laz. Like he knew he fucked up and he knew he fucking overreacted. And I was just like, the next time I see this dude, bro, I don't threaten people, but I'm just like, bro, I don't know who the fuck you think you're talking to. So that was stuff like that. That was one of the last straws for me. I didn't like that, especially when you find the fucking hat. So now I'm like, so now we're being insulted. And then I noticed we were doing MC battles at a place called, so we had moved it from the Little Rock to this place called Basement 818, which was it was like a hip hop shop, aka a graffiti store. It sold merch, but it was like what you call a typical old school hip hop shop. It wasn't underground, but it had that underground, like some shit you see in 8 Mile. Like the scenes where they shoot the battles in that movie, that's what you call a hip hop spot. It's a club club, underground shop, whatever you want to call it, that's dedicated purely to underground hip hop. So Basement 818 was that. It was a hip hop shop. So a hip hop spot, hip hop shop is what you call it. So I noticed we were doing MC battles, and I noticed Hoppa started taking me off the battles to host. And he would host them. And then I was just like, okay, well, that sucks. And then I kind of said something about that, and he just went fire and brimstone on me in the closed page. And it's not like I was like, what the fuck? I was just like, hey, I really enjoyed hosting the battles. Like, what's popping? Like, what's going on? And I think he took that as I was sassing him. So he just lit into me. Well, me and David and Mike, we do all the footwork, and you don't pay for anything, and yada yada yada. And these guys helped me set up and I'm just like, okay. You never asked me. I didn't know that's what you needed the artist to do. I'm sorry, I didn't know I was on a record label where I had to put in footwork as a minion too. I thought last time I checked, we were here to do music. Because here's the thing, I didn't mind helping. I didn't mind chipping in money. I was broke as fuck during that time. But if I had it, I would have. I didn't mind doing those things. But his approach about it is what pissed me off. And it was this whole thing of, well, bro, you never say anything. And you're going to go fire and brimstone on me because I don't chip in, quote unquote. I didn't know that's what an artist did on a label, So that was that. I noticed the MC battles. I noticed him. He was being very sharp and very, very, very stern and very attitudinal, as they would say, towards me personally. And I was just like, I just noticed these things. And then here's where everything came to culmination as far as this whole thing. So I'll never forget, I was staying with an ex at the time. I was living in Whittier, and the Broken Complex studio, the Odessa house was all the way in the valley. So Whittier from the valley, that's an hour, maybe 2-hour trip. I had no car. Me and my girl were sharing a car at the time. So I couldn't make it to the studio as much as I would like to. But at this point, I knew it was coming. I felt like something's on the horizon with this, and it's not going to end well. So lo and behold, I get a Facebook message, and it's a Facebook message to me and Laz. It's a group chat. It's from David Govia, who was management, and he sends a group chat to me and a message to me and Laz, and it says, "Can you guys be at the Odessa house tomorrow at 1 p.m.?" Now this is the night before, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, my girl has to work in the morning. I don't have access to a car. I'm all the way in Whittier. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to do that. So I just kind of was like, I'll try. And I think me not showing up, I don't know if Laz did. I don't know still to this day. But I'm pretty sure me not showing up and telling them that I couldn't was the last straw for not only them. I mean, it was for me, but I think it was the last straw for them. So I don't show up to this meeting, and I knew something was suspicious. I'm like, why do they want a meeting? And then not a couple days later, I wake up to a personal email from DJ Hoppa, basically telling me he wants to release me from the label. He wants to drop me from the roster. And he explains why. It's just, there's no room for you. And all I could hear, every explanation he gave, every time he gave an explanation in the email, all I could hear was Funk Volume's more important. You're not doing this, aka Funk Volume's more important. We shot a couple videos with you. Now we have to move on, aka Hobson's more famous than you. That's every time he would explain something, that's what I would hear. And I was just like, okay, I know what this is. You're sick of me, and you think probably at this point I'm a straggler. I have nothing to offer. I'm not doing as well as the guys from Funk Volume, so I'm expendable. That's it. So I tried to plead my case because I was just like, wow, this is horrible. What the fuck am I going to do? I've been with this label for 4 years. So I plead my case, and he's just not hearing it. He's just like, I understand that we have done some things, but still, you're gone.
Yeah, he made up his mind already. So it's like you could have said, you could have had the best argument in the world, and it would have been like,
exactly.
No, it's happening.
And the argument I had was a very professional one. I wasn't like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? I didn't get all emotional, but there was a tinge of being personable in it, because I'm like, we have a history. I was like, I've been with the label for like 3 going on 4 years now. I was like, I've done this, we've done that. I was just like, wouldn't that be kind of weird? All of a sudden, I'm just not around. Like, we've been doing this for a minute, and also, of course, from a personal standpoint, I was like, hey, I'm gonna miss the label. Like, hey, can we just reconsider? Like, is that really your final decision? And his response was basically, yep. He explained why, and I don't remember the explanation. It was just more of, we don't have time for this, we don't have time for that. And again, all I could hear was, I'm not feeling you personally and professionally at this moment, and you're gone. That's all I could hear.
Personally, so it was personal.
I think so. Oh yeah, I think so. I think that whole hat thing. I think just the years also of, like, me and Hopper were cool, and we were homies, but I didn't get high like I wasn't a pothead like those guys. I didn't skate. I didn't fall under that BC homie. What's the word I'm trying to use? Engine. I didn't fall under that engine. So because I didn't, I was always kind of an outsider. They they had love for me, but I'm saying more from Hoppa. I always think he was just standoffish because, and I think Minus used to tell him stuff too, because Minus was super walled up towards me. He was very indifferent. We got along sometimes. Other than that, Minus never really said much to me. So I think he used to be in Hoppa's ear about me. I think a lot of the guys, most of them weren't, but I think a couple were threatened by my presence because I was fucking good. And I know that probably is about as non-humble as anybody can be, but I don't give a fuck. I was. And because of that, I think they were threatened. They didn't like it. I was more of an artist than I was just a rapper, and they just didn't like it. And I think Hoppa didn't like it. So it brewed into a personal thing. I just really don't like you much. And then it leaked into the professionalness. So he was like, hey, I appreciate you for sticking around, but you got to go. And I remember he sent that email back in response to me pleading my case, and I read it. I didn't respond. I didn't say anything. I just started deleting shit. I went on Facebook, took everything BC down, because obviously I'm not going to sit there and lie. I was obviously in my feelings about that whole thing. I was pissed. I was hurt. I was like, wow, okay, great, thanks. And then one day, because this whole Funk Volume thing is kind of popping for you, you have no use for somebody like me. God, I understand. So in that moment, yeah, I was heated. So I was just like, I'm not gonna say anything. I didn't respond. I didn't say nothing. I was like, okay, gotcha, bet. Took down everything BC, deleted most, if not everybody from that I knew from the roster, except for like Laz and Clean, because those were like those were my kind of bro confidants at that time, because we did everything together those last months. It was just me, Laz, and Clean, as far as recording records, hanging out, being at the studio, at least for me, until I left. It was just the three of us. So I got rid of everybody else that I really didn't get along with, and I just was like, I'm good. Time to move on. This sucks, but time to fucking move on. So for months, I was very bitter about that. I was really annoyed. I remember I told my ex, and she looked at me, and she was just like, "Fuck," and I was just like, "Yep, I'm gone after 4 years." That is a wrap. And she felt really bad because she kind of knew the history I had with Broken Complex, and I was just like, well, on to the next, you know. So that's how that ended, very shitty like. And to close that chapter on Broken Complex, I have not, other than Clean and Laz, I have not spoken to or seen anybody from Broken Complex since then. They have not reached out to me. I think I sent Hoppa a message one time about 3 or 4 years ago just to see what the temperature would be like. He didn't respond. I didn't expect him to because I was during the time he was kind of, like I said, he was still popping with Funk Volume. So either he completely ignored it or it just got lost in the cracks of messages that he gets from fans. So I left it at that. It's like, we won't be doing that again. I think I tried messaging David Govia once. He read the message on Facebook, didn't respond. I was like, okay, 2 strikes, you're out. Not doing that again. And that was a few years ago, like 2014, 2015. And I just was like, that's it. You know, I tried to make a slight effort to reach out, but I haven't talked to anybody from there. Other than Clean and Laz, I haven't spoken to anybody from Broken Complex or Funk Volume, for that matter, in years. So that was that. That was the end of that chapter.
So we're coming about an hour and 45 minutes, just to let you know the time.
Okay.
But as you're ending your time with Broken Complex, you then started your time with another record label. Tell us the name of that and your time there.
I'll try to keep that brief because that was a big, long year-long pile of bullshit. It was a label. So I started, once the whole Broken Complex thing didn't pan out, I was like, I have to really move on and try to get back to where I was at, as far as doing and being busy and doing things. And, you know, at that, I will say post Broken Complex, I was still pretty viral. I started doing things independently, and a lot of my videos, I put out a mixtape called Far From Ordinary, which is one of the best projects I've ever done, but only the second after A Gentleman and a Scholar. I did that in 2013, 2014. It was an excellent project. Great mixtape, great group of records. I did a single for it called Real Hip Hop, which is what I wish I would have done for Gentleman and Scholar, because I would have got a better reaction instead of Fastlane. But I'm still proud of Fastlane. I just wish I did that instead. Real Hip Hop. I shot a video for Real Hip Hop. It got some good views. The remix got even more views. So I was still able to ride that train of Broken Complex, because for months after, I still had promoters hitting me up. People wanted to pay me for verses. I had producers from overseas reaching out to me from Europe saying, hey, you're good. We know you from BC. We want to work with you. Things were good for about a year. And then, of course, much like anything, it just kind of dissipated. People stopped caring. I had a lot of forums hitting me up for interviews. I got so many radio spots that year because I kind of posted that my time with BC is over. So I had like 3 or 4 like kind of, bloggers and people that knew and radio spot internet guys that were just like, you got to come on the show. You got to tell us your story. I started getting like on camera performance gigs. A music network named Dash Star used to reach out to me all the time. They stopped, of course. Underground hip hop blog, they hit me up. I had quite a few people for months being like, yo, we want to do shit with you. And it was just because I was still riding that wave, even though I wasn't part of the crew. But once they knew, it's the funny thing, a lot of those forums, once they knew I was good and gone, the calls stopped coming in, the messages stopped coming in, and so did the emails. And I was just like, okay, I saw what this was. Great. So things started to die down, and I kind of somewhat thought I was going to have a resurgence with this record label. So I did this awful fucking showcase, this industry showcase, like summer of 2013, something like that, for this guy named King Ryan, who I want to talk shit about, but I'm not, because he's no longer with us. I just recently found out he passed away. But at that time, he was a very janky, shady promoter, and everything was about money, and you had to sell tickets, and I was kind of over that shit anyway. But he was a pretty shiesty dude, at least for like I said, I don't want to talk ill of the dead, but from years ago, he was shiesty. He was shiesty. A lot of people used to warn me about him, and I still was like, yeah, I trust him enough to where I'll do some stuff. So I do the showcase that he ran, and there's like 4 different record labels there. There's a guy from a guy, I can't think of his name, but a big representative from Interscope. I can't think of his name, but he's huge in the music industry. He represented Limp. At one point he represented Limp Bizkit. He represented Linkin Park. I don't know his name, but look up people that represented those groups, and his name will pop up. He was there. I think somebody from Def Jam. And keep in mind, this was like all labels aren't even a thing now, but they were starting to not be a thing back then because everything is independent. But I was still excited because I had never been signed to a major label. I've worked with major labels. I've done showcases with major labels. I've recorded with major label representatives, but never had a signed contract deal, which is something I kind of dream of having, but it's like we're in a different era. Everything's independent. Like major labels are kind of defunct at this
almost
point.
Financially it's better for you to stay independent.
Exactly. And for most, and for you kids out there, I'm going to give you a quick lesson. For most of you, because I've been doing this almost 20 years now, for most industry things that are now anyway currently, as far as major labels, they're really just fucking people. They're throwing 360 deals at all these young artists, or single deals, or 1 album deals, and they're getting their streams, they're getting their downloads, they're taking all their fucking money. The only way they're making money is through shows. So major labels are kind of bullshit anyway. Now, if a major label were to come calling just for the promotional aspect, I probably would. But it's like you said, financially, it's best to stay independent. So there's a bunch of labels there, and there was this label called Cutthroat Records. I was like, I kind of heard of them, but not really. Yada, yada, yada. So I do this awful showcase, and by awful, I mean I was great. The rest of the show was a pile of shit. It was a bunch of kids, basically, a bunch of mumble rappers, a bunch of terrible fucking people who were just young, and basically had 150 people on stage. It wasn't even about the performance. They just wanted to, it was just all this whole young ideology of, yeah, nigga, we on. So there's 150 fucking people on stage getting ratchet, getting hyphy, and have no reason to be on stage. It was a pile of shit. I was like, I cannot wait to get out of there. That shit was 8 fucking hours, Vince. 8 hours of bullshit. I was the only good, decent act. And I'll tell you why in a minute. There's proof to that. It's not just because I know I'm a phenomenal artist. There's proof that was the case. So the show ends, and you get to talk to the record label people. So I'm talking to all these people representing them, and I'm like, hey, and they're telling me, the first person to mention it was this guy from Interscope, this big name from Interscope. And he comes up to me and he was like, first of all, it was a competition. I didn't win. That's another thing. I didn't win. But from what I understood, I was supposed to win. So I go to meet him, and he literally comes up to me. He's like, why didn't you win? I was like, and in my mind, I didn't say this, but in my mind, I'm like, because you didn't vote for me. You're one of the judges, you fucking cock. What are you talking about? Like, why are you asking me that? Don't you know? I didn't say that, but I'm just like, I don't know. You're one of the judges. And then it's revealed by him that I was supposed to win. This King Ryan guy basically went up to each of them and said, we're not going to let this Laren guy win. I'm just not. And it was a long story behind that. Like, Ryan owed me money for some tickets that I sold, and the show didn't happen. Long story, but I had already had bad blood with this guy. He basically told them, I'm changing the outcome. They all voted for me, Vince. The Interscope guy, the Def Jam guy, the Cutthroat Records guy, they all voted for me to win, and Ryan changed the fucking results. I was told this. He was like, we were under the impression you were supposed to win. And I was like, you motherfucking pile of shit, dude. And I'll never forget, King Ryan came up to me, and he must have knew they were telling me something, because he kind of walked up to me and was like, hey, buddy, like tried to play the whole Vince McMahon, hey, buddy, you did a good job, pal. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, thanks, bro. Thanks. I know what you did, you fucker. But whatever. God rest his soul. He is a dead man, so I'm trying not to harp on that. But it was a fixed outcome. It was a fix. And I was told about the fix. And then furthermore, I was told by the same guy from Interscope, he's like, to be honest with you, bro, he said, you got talent, but he said, everything is about the industry. Everything is about money. Nobody's about to give you handouts. And he made a point of saying, and he was right. He was like, nobody here at this fucking showcase is going to get signed. He's like, none of these fuckers are going to get signed. He said, it's just not going to happen. They have nothing to offer, and the industry's not like that anymore. And as upsetting as that was to hear that, I was like, wow, you're right. Thank you for being honest. He wanted to let me know, like, dude, it's a pay to play game. Like, you can't just, nobody just goes on YouTube anymore and goes, used to maybe. But even, maybe Justin Bieber and a few other people, but even there was politics behind that. Justin just didn't jump into the scene. He had he had ties. There was representation involved, and he didn't just show up to Usher's door. Like, he had to get a manager, the Scooter Braun guy. That had to be a buildup. It didn't just happen. So he told me that. That was one of the first times I heard that, even with the internet, you still got to work for your shit, dude. Nobody cares. He's like, nobody at this fucking place is going to get signed. He's like, don't worry, you didn't win. It's like, it doesn't matter. He's like, the person that won, they're not going to get signed either. So he was really honest, and he was really cool. So I meet this guy from Cutthroat Records. I'll try to make this as brief as possible. His name is Matt, and he turns out to be a complete garbage pile of shit man. You could tell he's a fucking shyster because he had a fake ass fucking 3-piece suit on that was 2 sizes too big. He looked like he got it from a secondhand store and was trying to look flashy. But I'm gonna be honest, I was desperate and super thirsty. I just wanted something. So he took me outside and he's like, hey, I want to sign you to the label. And I was just so happy because I was just like, well, fuck, they're at this industry label, so something good is gonna come out of this, because I was ready to leave. When they did The Outcome, I was ready to get the fuck out of there. Me and my ex were there, and I looked at it and I was like, this was a big pile of shit. We're gone. And just as I was walking out the door, this Cutthroat guy came up to me, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of glad I stayed. But also now in hindsight, I'm kind of wish I had left. So he's telling me he wants to sign me. I speak to one of the label heads, quote unquote. It was one of his partners, and they seemed pretty honest in the beginning. And they were basically like, "Look, we can't promise you you'll be a star. We can't promise you you'll have hits, but we will give you a home to record and do stuff and do that and other." And I was like, you know what? That's all I want. At this point, I was like 29, 30. I was like still young, but I was also like, I'm getting up. I'm like, I told him, I'm like, dude, I'm 30. I've been doing this for a long time. Like, I know it just doesn't happen overnight. I get it. I just want to work. I was desperate. I just wanted to get back on the scene. And he was like, bet, we got you. So over the course of the next few months, it was bullshit. Empty promises from this Matt guy who ran the label. Me and him constantly argued because he would try to tell me things, and I knew it was bullshit, and I would challenge him about it because I was just sick of people handing me pipe dreams and empty promises. I was over that shit. And he would just say all these things, and it never would happen. I did one show that he booked. It was a pile of fucking shit. It did nothing for me. They were like, it was at a restaurant somewhere in fucking Lord knows when, and he sent his shitty ass assistant to go there and to make it seem like it was bigger than it was. So she's telling me all this bullshit. Her name was Robin. She's telling me all this bullshit, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. And I'm just trying to live in the moment. He claimed he had other artists. I never saw them, never heard any music from them. I was just like, this is shiesty as shiesty could be. And here's the thing, I signed a contract that was notarized and everything. So I'm like, I'm stuck. Great, Laren, good job. You got yourself in a contract with a pile of shit fucking label that's not doing anything for you. And I thought it was, because he said all these great things. So I do the Far From Ordinary mixtape, which I had started independently before then. But I was like, okay, I could transition this into the Cutthroat Records. I could put this under that. And as a matter of fact, I think in the back of the artwork, it's like a Cutthroat Records little signature insignia. And I was just like, boy, I wish I wouldn't have put that. But I had to, by contractually, I had to. So I'm like, oh, I'll transition this. So he promised me good artwork. He promised me all this press coverage, did none of it. He insulted my intelligence by literally sending me one day. He was like, oh, I got somebody from our art department working on your fucking logo and on your artwork. And he sends me a copy of it. He sends me an image. And it is you could tell he did it himself. You could literally tell he did this shit himself. And I was just like, oh, wow. What a fucking, you must think I'm a sucker if you think this fucking bullshit that you sent me is something from your art department. So it was just stuff like that. And it was just constant back and forth, nothing happening. And then after a year, I started becoming really flaky. I stopped communicating. I was just like, this is a waste of time. I was like, maybe the contract was for a year. So I was like, I'm just going to ride this pile of shit contract out and move on. And I'll never forget, at the end of the year, after months and months and months of going back and forth with this guy, butting heads with him. Oh, also, I'm going to say this because this is a tell-all interview pretty much. When I first got signed to Cutthroat Records, he had signed another female artist. I later found out that all he was trying to do was fuck her. That was the whole thing. She was super excited. She was young. And I remember she messaged me like, "Hey, I hear you're signed to the Cutthroat Records too." She's like, "I'm excited to work with you." She was a young rapper, yeah, young singer. She had a good look, so I was ready. I was excited to work with her and write stuff for her. And I was like, "Yo, this is gonna be a small little empire." And then I noticed it went from happy, happy, happy from her to her messaging me saying, "Hey, so what do you think about this whole contract thing? And have you talked to Matt?" And now she's being concerned. And then I later come to find out that he was like trying to basically get like nude pics out of her. He would tell her it's for a photo shoot. He's like, "Send me some sexy pics." And I'm just like, whoa, wow, what a fucking sleazeball. What a greasy sleazeball thing to do. Like you take these young people's dreams, this young girl's dream, and you're basically asking her for nudes and lying to her and telling her it's for a photo shoot. So she started, she didn't know who to talk to. So she would message me. And I don't want to, I won't say her name. Um, we'll keep her anonymous. But she used to message me and be like, "He's doing this, he's doing that," and I'm already like, wow, this is already a bad idea. And I was just like so mad, and I so wrote it out. And I remember me and him had a conversation about it, and I was just like, "Bro, look, whatever you're doing, it's none of my business, but please don't let it affect business because right now you've got me as an artist, and this girl is telling me all these things." And I believed it. I could tell by what she was telling me, it was the truth. And he actually admitted, he was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was trying to bone her." I was like, "You just signed her to bone her? That's what you wanted, that's what you do?" You signed this girl so you could try to have sex with her and solicit her for nudes? Like, why didn't you just tell her that? Like, why? That's so sleazy. Like, even if it wasn't for the purposes of signing her, it was just the act in itself was super sleazy. So I was just turned off by so many variables. And then at the end of the year, I'll never forget, me and him had butt heads so much that I remember he randomly sent me a text message, and the text message read as follows: "Because of your lackluster performance, because of breach of contract, yada yada yada, your contract with Cutthroat Rex is now null and void and terminated." And I was like, "Okay." I was like, if you really think after the way this year's been, I'm gonna be that upset. I simply responded to him. I was like, "It's for the best. Thanks." That was it. Deleted his number, moved on. So that was the Cutthroat experience. Just one big pile of shit, basically. And the contract ran out, and that was it. And then it was back on my grind again, man. Back independent grind, you know.
And you're preferring, like you said, the independent grind as opposed to being like tied up with a label, even if it's independent.
I mean, if it came around, I would like some major label representation because they'll market you better. But as far as, I mean, there's some major independent stuff, and I know that's like an oxymoron, but there are. Um, I because I'm more focused. I love music. I still do music. I still record. Like I said, me and my brother are trying to, we're launching a production company, which we'll end the interview off on that situation, and kind of what I'm doing now currently. But I just, I'm so focused on acting and comedy right now because I'm booking movies left and right by the graces of God. That's all from a humble standpoint. Like, thank you, God. I'm booking a lot of indie films. I booked my first kind of major film. Um, uh, I'll break the full news about that on season 3 on the first episode. We'll talk about that. We'll open the season with that. So I'll keep that tucked away. But it's a pretty big deal. It's definitely streaming worthy. I will say that. Major platform streaming worthy. And I'm just doing so many things comedy and film wise now. It's just like I love music, but that's kind of on the back burner. Right now it's comedy, acting, and then music. And I love music to death. I will never not be a rapper. But I am getting to the point of considering at some point, it's going to be a while, but I am starting to feel that maybe it's time to retire. Kind of feelings are bubbling slightly. Not, they haven't taken over, but there are literally times I sit around and I'm just like, wow, I've been doing this off and on for 20 years now, since I was a teenager, and I've had some highs, but I've had a lot of lows, and it just never really has popped off the way I wanted it to. And now that we're in this independent era, I still want to do it, but it's just like maybe I should do more behind the scenes stuff. You know, maybe being the front man as an artist musically isn't my thing. Maybe I should focus more on acting and comedy. These are just the things I think. Because right now my thing is acting, comedy, and music. I've now doing the whole jack of all trades thing. And I'm a writer. I'm a screenplay writer and a comedy writer as well. And I do stand up. So it's like I'm at the point now where I'm like, I want to focus on all these things. I really do. But music is a lesser priority, you know. And I'm desperately trying to make that kind of more of a bigger priority. And that's why I'm working with my younger brother and all that. And but independent. I'm as far as musically, I'm strictly independent and have been for a while.
All right. So any final words before we close out this interview?
Just thank you for playing the sway to my Eminem. As far as an in-house interview, Vince, you did a good job. You asked some good questions, and I just like telling my story musically. And I know in the top of the show you list off my many accolades that I am humbled to be blessed vicariously through God with. And I know there's some people out there that aren't religious. I am a man of God. I was raised Christian, and I believe these blessings have come because this is what the path God wants me on. And I appreciate it. You listed off those accolades, but I as much as I do all the stuff that you listed off, music is still a passion, no matter what. Despite what I just said, which was, I'm starting to get in my ways about music, but it'll never not be a passion. So whether I'm doing that in front of the mic or behind the mic, in the studio or just in the room of the studio working with another artist, I will never leave music alone. And I wanted to tell my music story specifically on this, because that I always say, and I've told you this, I've told everybody this, the closest I ever became to fame was because of music. Max Star was the closest I ever became to being famous. And by the blessings of God, I could say that at one point, a couple of years ago, because of that whole experience with BC and the funk volume and all that stuff we were tied in with, I could say at one point I was internet famous. I was definitely in LA locally, and in all those cities we toured. People started knowing who I was. I started getting hit up from those people to do features. And so I could say I was internet famous at one point. So that's a blessing. And it's just been a crazy journey. And I'm not stopping quite yet. But because, like I said, I want to kind of end off by saying, like, me and my brother were starting our again, him and his friend had already planted the seeds. It's called Fifth Hits Productions. It's going to be a multimedia brand. So we're going to be doing a podcast, gaming. There's going to be a music unit, which is run by yours truly, of course, because I'm the most experienced out of the four of us. It's me, my brother, another music artist, and a graphic designer. So the four of us are like playing CEOs of Fifth Hit. And that's Fifth, 5TH, Hit, HIT. So we're launching this, and I'm hoping this could give me a good music resurgence, Vince. I'm hoping it kind of brings me back to that. Max Star is still young enough. I'm in my 30s. I'm still young enough to do this music thing. And I know, let's be honest, and you could attest to this. Music, especially hip hop, is a young man's game. It just is. It always has been. And most of the rappers that are famous or have been famous started when they were fucking 19, 17, 18, and 19, just like I did. But I just didn't get that opportunity they did. So I'm still searching for that brass ring when it comes to music. Again, even though it's the lesser of my priorities, I still have a passion, and I still at one point want to be the Max Star that I always dreamed of being, which is the rapping, singing, songwriting, music video recording, performing in front of 80,000 people one day, hopefully. I mean, that's going to be a lot hard now anyway because of COVID, but post-COVID, hopefully they open up stadiums and I'm able to do stuff of that nature. And that's just kind of where I'm at right now. So look out for Fifth Hit stuff. Me, my brother Mowza, Mowza, Nobody, who's one of our artists, and Matt Otis, who's actually our graphic designer, and he's like one of the CEOs. So the four of us are working on this, and we're going to be dropping some shit soon. So look out for that. Fifth Hit coming your way.
Excellent. Well, thanks again for sharing your story with us. This concludes season 2 of Popcorn and Booze. We've got a lot on the docket for next season. We're looking to just sort of obviously try to move forward with how we do the presentation
Branch
of the
out.
show. But also, just trying new creative things, which I'm not going to get into now. It'll be a little surprise later. So we'll give you a little tease, a little morsel of that. But I will say this, that we are planning on opening up season 3, episode 1 with a tribute to the late great DMX, who passed away recently. He's obviously was iconic as a rapper, as an actor when we were growing up in the 90s and 2000s, and he's made an impact on a lot of us. I know that you and I both have a lot to say about that.
What are you trying to say, Vince? What are you trying to say? No, I'm here. That's how
you
he
do a
raps.
really good Baltimore accent. That was DMX Baltimore.
Go.
Yeah.
It sounds like a Yonkers accent to me, but okay, sure, buddy. No, rest in peace to the king, man. I'm gonna be honest, and we'll talk more about it, obviously, in season 3 of that first episode. But it's hard to talk even about him without getting choked up. It's fuck. I learned so much from that man from a hip hop standpoint, and he really. And I posted this on Facebook, and I think you saw it. He literally changed my life as a kid, as far as my perspective of hip hop. I never listened to hip hop the same after him, and it was in a good way, because it opened my ears up to a gritty, dark side of hip hop that was just really dope. And he was also a spiritual man, and he taught me so much, man. And he, brings the feels on. Rest in peace to the king, to the goat, to the dog. And we'll get into that next season. And that first episode, we're going to make some announcements. So like Vince said, we're going to keep it kind of under wraps, but just know some announcements are coming episode 1, as well as a DMX tribute. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that, really. We got a lot of exciting things coming around when it comes to season 3. I'm really excited for season 3. I know Vince is. Just know we got some cool additions. That's all I'm gonna say, and yes. We'll leave it at that.
All right. So with that being said, season 2, episode 10, the season finale. I am your host with the most, the sanitizer having, but I don't have it on me right now. The Oriole and Raven repping, never half stepping, always representing Baltimore. I am the master and the ruler. That's what you do. You do the little Psycho Sid thing. So I thought I'd throw that out right now. Styling, profiling. Rick, I don't call him Rick Flair. I think that's a made up name. I've never heard that before. So I'm just going to call him Ric Flair. I think that's more respectful. I'm the Ric Flair of the sidekick of Popcorn and Booze. I am yours truly, Vince Eustace.
And I am so fly, and just like my co-host or host of the show, one day I'll be a married guy.
Hey,
Max. I'm just Max. Stop doing the RVD. Max Star.
Hall of Famer, the whole effing show. Guys, it's been great. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next season. So with that being said, I guess I'll do the honors of bye-bye. Oh, wait. Do we even call it Popcorn and Booze yet?
We have to do that.
We got to roll it. I got very excited.
Let's go. Yeah.
But we know what this is. This is Popcorn
and Booze.
Goodbye.
Yeah. What happened to the good old days? Yeah, the good old days. I don't know. I think we should just go on and bring them back. Come on. Mics and turntables. Sidekicks and dope rhymes. B-boys and DJs. I got one question. Do you remember the time Michael Jackson? It wasn't about the ratchets, it was about the rapping. Now they got the whole game melting in the pot. They helping it to stop. Are you helping it or not? See, I remember Rock, him and Big Daddy Kane.